Is it working? I think it's working.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the K-Town Brothers podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Uncle Jew. This is my brother, Kobe Wan Shinobi. And we're not brought to you by anything this week.
That's
Because
right.
I didn't write a damn thing.
That's okay.
What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. Just out here trying to live, man. I went to I went for a walk yesterday.
Okay.
Day before yesterday, Friday. I went
Okay.
Friday night. I went to there's this little deal by the river where you they make like a little path along the river for people to walk, and it leads to like ultimately to like some museums and shit like that downtown.
Okay.
And so, but there's a spot where you can get into it where there's like it used to be some kind of a factory, but they converted it into like a big hipster place full of restaurants and shit,
Okay.
you know?
Mm.
Holy shit, man. There were so many people there on Friday. Like
Really?
4 of them were wearing masks.
Oh, wow.
5 if you count me. I'm just
Right.
like, damn, these people have
Wow.
done lost. What is it? They didn't have near mask.
They didn't have near mask on.
It was crazy, dude. I don't
Yeah.
understand. But hey,
People from fucking Florida.
you heard about Texas and Mississippi though, right?
Yeah, Texas started. No, Texas is starting Monday. They're dropping the mask thing in 100% capacity, and Mississippi started last week.
Oh, they started already?
Yeah, they started the day that it was announced,
Wow.
like the next day. So it's like, wow.
I'm sure
Well,
it'll
I
be
don't know.
fine.
I mean, I feel like it probably will, but
I mean, it's not like a
um,
bunch of people are gonna die. I mean, that's never happened before.
right. Cuomo, watch out.
That guy.
That fucking guy.
Speaking of him, did you see the picture of him holding that lady's face?
No, I didn't see the picture of him holding the lady's face.
So there's like because I don't know. There's like 3 women I think that said he did something.
Damn, is it 3? I thought it was only 1.
No, it's at least 2.
Oh, wow.
Well, he's accused of doing
Okay.
different stuff. One of them,
Right.
he like I don't know. He did different shit. But the one I saw, because this lady said like, I was at this party and he comes up to me and he's all like, I don't know, some shit about wanting to kiss me or something, right? And like, oh, I don't know what she's talking about, blah blah blah. So then, like, the lady's friend was at the party and she sort of heard some commotion, and she turned around and took a picture of what was happening. And so there's a picture of Cuomo standing in front of this woman, like holding her face, like this kind of a deal. And
Oh,
she's
wow.
just there, like, what the fuck is this guy doing to me? And I'm like, yeah, let's see you explain that, Hoss.
Right. Explain that, house.
I don't understand, man. Like,
These
see,
fucking
that's when you
people,
just
man.
get greedy. I mean, it's not, I'm pretty sure he didn't have a problem finding women that he could date or whatever,
Right.
fool around with, whatever it is he wanted to do.
Right.
But that's not good enough. It's never good enough.
It's never for these fucking people, man. You want more and more.
Yep.
I know I've been, at least for the last week, maybe last 2 weeks, probably more like last week, I've been trying to raise the stigmatism of, how like drug dealers, like they have this stigmatism about them. They're like, oh, you sell drugs to your community. You're a piece of shit, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm now starting to look at like who we're supposed to deem as successful people and we're supposed to look up to, people who are like, judges, attorneys, CEOs, stuff like that. But when it comes to like CEOs, to me, it's like you guys are pieces of shit because you're not like fighting for people to get higher wages. You're not fighting for any of that shit. You're just trying to make the company grow another 20%, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like, and they're overly obsessed with like finances and shit, and they don't give a fuck about people. And it's like, to me, like, you take a fucking CEO and they're basically forced to pay people a minimum wage. You would think you have a company and you would be proud to say, oh, well, everybody in my company gets at least $50,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
The lowest paid person gets $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
You think you'd be proud of some shit like that.
Yeah.
But no, CEOs just try to squeeze, like they would still be paying people $3 an hour if they could.
Yeah.
And to me, I look at these people like you. I'm not looking up. Like I'm supposed to respect that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I'm supposed to look up to you like you're a successful individual. No, you're a piece of fucking shit. Like, and so now to me, like, let me find out somebody is a fucking, vice president or some fucking big corporation. I'm looking down on them now. Like that's it's you're a piece of shit. Like you
Yeah.
don't do shit. Like, and then as far as lawyers and judges and cops and shit like that, they've been on my fucking shit list. But
Mm-hmm.
like they're all part of this ridiculously fucked up system. So there's no more excuses about, I'm just doing my job. No, fuck you. You're part of a bigger fucking system that just constantly fucks people over.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no I'm just doing my job bullshit anymore.
Yeah.
Like, for me, and like I said with the CEOs, is that you guys are fucking pieces of shit. Like, you do nothing for anybody but stack more paper in your own fucking pockets for
Mm-hmm.
people who are already fucking rich. Like, and all of this shit about like the fucking wealth inequality in this fucking company is in this fucking company. Might as well be a company. It's
It
not a
might as
fucking
well be.
country. Like, but
Yeah.
the fucking wealth inequality is fucking ridiculous. And
It
I've been
is.
thinking about that shit a lot lately, and that's been kind of bothering me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, I see fucking CEOs as fucking trash to me. Like, they're the lowest rung of society as far as I'm concerned.
Can
Now,
can you imagine if people treated their kids the way CEOs treat their employees? Like, what are you talking about? I gave that little bastard a bike with one wheel.
right.
Start laughing. Ah, I make him sleep in a literal shoebox. Like, it's real horrible, dude. Like, people, like, oh, I got my son this thing. I bought my daughter this big giant thing,
Right.
So it's not
Right.
like they can't, like, there are certain people, quote unquote, beneath them
Right.
that they can treat humanely.
Right.
It's just
Yep.
there's this group of people that they view as disposable.
Yep.
Like, you don't matter. Like, whatever. Just get out of here. I could just replace you.
Yep.
You people are like toothpicks,
Right.
those
And it's like,
straws.
like, just, I don't even know where it really came from, but I was just thinking one day, I was like, and wait a minute, these people are successful. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to look at and view these people as the, top rung of society. Like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going. Like, you guys are pieces of fucking shit. Like, and it's especially cops and lawyers, and those are the people that I'm attacking with the I'm just doing my job bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
but fucking CEOs, these motherfuckers, man, like y'all don't do shit for anybody. You just line your own pockets for motherfuckers who are generationally wealthy anyway.
Yeah, there's this guy, I might have talked about him before. It's like this like Indian dude or Pakistani dude or something.
Mm,
His name's Anand Giardadas or something to that effect.
wow.
And he's written a couple books, but he goes on a lot of the, the news shows, interviews and stuff.
Hmm.
And one of the things he talks about is how, like, it's one thing to be like Scrooge, right?
Hmm.
To be just like openly greedy and I don't give a fuck about you and that kind of thing.
Right.
But it's an entirely different thing to be like, oh, let's pretend that we love the people that we buy our coffee from, and like we're gonna like say for every time you buy a cup of coffee, we send however many cents to whoever, and all this other kind of shit. And like these people make like $1 billion a year selling coffee or whatever, and they send like $20 a year to these farmers, or even if they do it all, because I mean, sometimes the administrative fees just eat so much of it. What can we do? You know,
Right.
like what could anybody do? And that's part of it
See,
too. That's their whole thing. What could I mean, can anybody really do anything? Like, yes, you could, because you're in control of a lot of these situations.
right. Especially when we start talking about billions of dollars. Like,
Yeah.
that's why something else I've been complaining. It was probably more like a month ago I was complaining about these people, but
Mm-hmm.
like people like Oprah who have all this fucking money and don't really do anything for anybody outside of like, oh, she'll have a dinner to raise money for, kids with cancer, or she'll have a dinner to raise money for X, Y, and Z,
Mm-hmm.
and they never actually take their dollars, like the money that they have. They
Yeah.
never actually take it and actually invest in some ghetto ass community or something like that. Like it's all like they want more credit than what like they deserve. Like Oprah
Mm-hmm.
is worth like $3 billion almost. Like, and she wants all this ass kissing and all this credit for donating 200 grand or $250,000 or $500,000 to some place. Bitch, you're worth a fucking billion. That's like me donating, $50 and I
Uh-huh.
make 25 grand a year. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, ooh,
Mm-hmm.
like that's if you look at the large scheme of things, she ain't shit. Like she don't donate that much fucking money. Like
Yeah.
it's just all bullshit. They raise more money than they actually donate. Like, I don't know. But I've been
It's
trying to work on getting over shit that's, out of my
yeah.
control.
I just looked up uh like ways to visualize $1 billion,
Hmm.
and they have a section on this webpage called money carpets.
Money carpets.
So if you created a carpet out of $1 bills, $1 billion, of $1 bills into put into like a carpet
Hmm.
would be 4 square miles. So you could go out into the middle of nowhere in Illinois and buy a plot of land that's 2 miles wide and 2 miles tall.
Right.
And you could literally carpet the entire thing in $1 bills. So Oprah could do that and still have $2 billion left over.
Right. She could do that 3 times.
Like it's crazy. Like so somebody like what's his name? Jeff Bezos. If
Bezos.
if you have $100 billion, you can make a carpet that's 400 square miles. This would cover an area equal to 1/3 the size of the state of Rhode Island.
Wow.
You know what? He could literally like send his money into space and turn it into a giant carpet and drop it on some city and just smother everyone to death.
Right. Didn't he ain't even the richest dude no more. Elon took him, didn't he?
Well, they go. I think they've been going back and forth because there was some stock thing that happened recently with
Yeah,
Elon Musk.
because like Elon soared past him.
I think he went back down though. He's still
Oh, okay.
numbered. It's still between those two, but
Okay, because I had heard he had gotten up to like 750 billion,
I
the
don't know.
fucking Tesla company.
Yeah, he it was so his wealth was all based on the stock, and I
Right.
think the stock went down a little bit recently,
Okay.
possibly. So that's why he lost
So it might have
some of his
just
money.
jumped up momentarily and somebody
Yeah,
reported the number. That makes sense.
but he was the top dog for a little while.
I like how whenever Musk was on Rogan again a couple weeks ago,
Oh yeah.
he had said, and apparently he has said this several times, is like college is a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
He said college is like for fun
Yeah.
and uh, to prove that you can do all of your chores, but everything's essentially available to learn for free. So
Yeah.
college is pointless. If you wanted to learn anything, you could basically learn it for free. Um, and like he also was talking about how he thinks companies are overly focused on finance. And like for instance, you'll never see a Tesla advertisement. They spend $0 on advertising. Like, and he was saying that like companies are like overly focused on like finance and making the business grow, so so many percent per year and this, that, and the other thing. And what they should be focused on is the quality of their service or product. Like,
Yeah.
and shit like that. And this is coming from one of the richest dudes in the world. You know what I mean? So it was kind of
Yeah.
just nice to hear somebody tell these fucks that, you know, you're overly focused on fucking finances. Like, you guys are ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I really do think he has a point. Like
Yeah.
instead of, it's like these people they make sandwiches, and instead of making their sandwiches taste better, they just try to
Right.
like, so can we just hire like a million hypnotists and
Right.
hypnotize people into liking our shit sandwiches? Like, why don't you just stop making a shit sandwich, dude? Like, you literally have enough money to hire like 100 of the top chefs in the entire world. But instead of doing that, you want to hire a billion hypnotists
Right.
to fucking trick people into eating your
And making
sandwiches.
people think the sandwich is good.
Yeah, like it's insane.
Wow.
And I mean, I see that a lot in video games. Like, and I think it's one of the reasons why it's part of the reason why the video game community is so toxic,
Hmm.
because they know that they're sort of being taken for a ride, but they just sort of take it out on different people instead of the people doing it. But like
Okay.
none of these video game companies are run by dudes who are like, oh, I want to make video games because I think video games are cool. Like all of these companies are run by old white dudes who used to sell like dish soap and socks and
Yeah.
stupid shit like that. And they're,
Fucking vacuum cleaners.
yeah, like they don't care. Like we're just selling some bullshit to people, like whatever is
Right.
gonna sell. Like I
They
don't
don't
know
care
nothing
what it
about,
is.
yeah, they don't care at all.
Hmm.
And I mean, I guess you don't have to do that, but when like nothing in your society is being run by people who care about it, I mean, what happens then? I think we see what happens.
Yeah, clearly, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I never thought of that, but that sounds about right. Like,
Yeah.
cause CEOs don't get hired really. They're supposed to get hired for their fucking vision, but everybody's vision for corporate America is the same. Make the company grow 20%, and you'll keep your fucking job. As soon as the
Mm-hmm.
company dips in some sort of annual growth, then they want to get rid of you. And it's like I just can't stand any longer being at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
being literally paid a minimum wage. Like, I just see all of the flaws in it. Like, people would steal less, people would work harder if you actually paid them for it. But when you pay somebody minimally, based on what the government comes up with that's fucking legal, like, which is, minimum wage has to be fucking 20 years behind. If you take, like, let's say milk costs $1 in 1976 or 1964,
Mm-hmm.
right? And milk costs $3 now. Well, that's a 200% increase. Like, like wages have not went up 200% since the fucking 60s.
Yeah.
Like, so
Mm-hmm.
it's like people, and it pissed me off because I heard that Charlemagne the God dude say there was this Chicago lawmaker. They just kept referring to him as a Chicago lawmaker. I
Yeah.
don't know what position he holds that makes him a lawmaker, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Some black guy was trying to get GTA banned,
Oh yeah.
and he was like, instead of banning video games, like, why don't you work on, like, getting people paid $15 an hour, minimum wage? Why don't you work on, the violence problem, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but what pissed me off about it is his statement is he said, like, pay people $15 minimum wage, like that was like gonna save somebody's life.
Yes.
Paying somebody this shitty ass wage is gonna do something for real for them.
Yeah.
Like, that's what pissed me off about it. Like, and it's, I mean, he's out of touch because he's rich anyway. But,
Yeah. The
like,
guy is Marcus C. Evans Jr. He's an Illinois state representative in Burnside and Chatham,
okay, some South Side ass
Calumet
nigga.
City, some shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, some South Side motherfucker.
Yeah. Steve Harvey looking at.
Right, exactly. Goof ass nigga.
I mean, I don't know. How old is this guy? He's probably old, so he just don't understand.
And then the thing that got me was in this video that I saw, he was at a press conference, and
The politician dude.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and he said that in the video game there are circumstances to where You pull up behind somebody, bump their car with your car, they get out the car, and then you steal their car. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not a situation in that fucking video game. Like, can you ram somebody? Yeah. Will they get out the car? Sometimes. Yeah. But there's no circumstance in the video game to where you're supposed to bump somebody's car like
Yeah.
they're doing here. I don't know if you heard about that, but that's one of the newer things. It's kind of old now, but
Oh, they did that shit back in the
they were
late
rear-ending
80s.
people. Oh, did they?
I mean, they did it in Florida. They didn't do it as much in Illinois back then, but I remember
Okay.
hearing it was one of them things that people used to get all scared about. They'd watch 2020,
Yeah.
shocking new
Yeah.
crime spree in Florida.
Right. These fucking people,
They
like,
crash into you and then they steal your car.
right. And like dude made it seem like that was, like part of what you do in the video game. Part of what I've been complaining about, I was gonna say for the last 5 years, but they've been promoting GTA 5 for the last 5 fucking years with their goddamn GTA 5 online. Like nothing ever gets fucking old with that shit.
Yeah.
But for the last,
2013.
you know, decade, for the last 15 years,
Hmm.
I've been complaining about how they don't have enough actual Grand Theft Auto on their fucking video games. Like before, you could spend all day on the little aerial, view ones. You could
Hmm.
spend all day stealing cars and taking it and making money. Steal a car, take it to the chop shop, make money. Steal a car, blah, 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 over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Now, you can't do that shit. You can steal somebody's car and joyride, but that's all you're fucking doing.
That's a
You
good point.
you're not taking that car anywhere to go get $5,000 for it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like,
No, that's a
so
really good
the
point. I didn't
fucking
think about
name
it.
doesn't even really match anymore.
Yeah.
Like GTA 5 was all about like jewelry heist and heisting places, It's
Yeah.
not Grand Theft Auto. Like Grand Theft Auto just became some sort of, weird, like phrase for the game. Like it's not what you do in the game though.
GTA 5 is I wanted to make a game called Heat, but they wouldn't give me the license from the movie.
There you go.
That's what it is. What if there was a movie with Al Pacino and
Right.
and what's
Right.
his Robert De Niro? And they're
With a
like
young De Niro
and
and
they're like just going around shooting and stealing and shooting.
stealing and shooting. Yes. That's exactly what it is. It's fucking
Man.
people, man. Good. Yeah. So, and like of course I went off on like that too because I forgot what the last thing was that I went off on, but it was basically like some of the same shit. Like, this is what you're doing as a lawmaker. This is what you're
Hmm.
focused on. There ain't niggas out here dying. There ain't, like niggas in fucking poverty. You're not
Hmm.
trying to help any of the real issues, but oh, these fucking video games are causing kids to,
Yeah.
start carjacking. And no, new technology, because carjacking was down for about 5 or 6 years. Carjacking was down, and some new technology came out that allowed people to steal these cars with all this computer bullshit built into them.
Hmm.
Somebody release some sort of fucking technology that allows them to be able to either duplicate the key without having to actually be there or some bullshit like that. Like there's some new theft technology out that allows people to steal cars. Because
I don't think that's what it is from what I heard.
what are you hearing?
What I heard is that just people are completely not understanding the point of having a keyless entry fob. And so they leave the fob in the fucking car. And then they don't understand why somebody could drive off with their car with the fucking fob sitting in the cup holder type deal. Because a lot of it has been people like Uber Eats and, DoorDash people have been getting their
Okay.
cars stolen because they'll leave the key fob on the little, you know, the
Hmm.
little, what do you call it, little center console thing or
Yeah.
whatever. And they'll go take the cheeseburgers up to the house and some dude jumps into their car and bloop, bloop, and then they're
Oh,
gone.
yeah. I hadn't heard that. Like I
Because the
because
same thing
like
happens if you get carjacked. If you got the key in your pocket, they tell you get out the car, you get out the car and you break out. They're like, cool, I got this car. I
right,
don't know about all the cars, but at least my car, at the very least, it's going to be like boom, boom, boom
right.
forever. But some of them might actually stop. I know if someone steals a Tesla
Hmm.
and it gets too far away from the key, it'll just turn off.
Now that's what I was wondering with our car because you could start it and then walk the fuck off with the key and it's just still running.
Yeah.
So I wonder how far you can get away from the key before the car shuts down. I've actually wanted to like test it. Like, could we drive from our house to the local food for less,
Mm-hmm.
without a key? Like, you started obviously with the key and then you
Yeah.
leave the key at home and then go.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Like, I
Some of
don't
them
know
that,
how far the cars let you go because if we ever left the car running, the key's always in our pockets.
yeah.
And so if somebody jumps in the car and drives off, I have no idea how far the car would get.
Yeah. Well, the other problem too is that, so let's assume it doesn't turn the car off, right?
Hmm.
They steal the car. They can never turn it off because once they turn it off, they can't start it back up
Right,
again.
right,
So that makes the whole chop shop situation, because, I don't know for sure, but I don't think you drive directly to the fucking chop shop. You
right,
stash that motherfucker somewhere for at least a couple hours. Then you work it out and then you take it to the chop shop. But you can't do that if you don't got the fob.
right.
So, because you don't want to be taking a hot car like that directly to the
My
place.
thing was like similar to like people stealing cell phones. So
Uh-huh.
I ended up talking to this like street nigga type dude,
Mm-hmm.
and he was saying that with the cell phone, their whole gimmick is they could get a cell phone. They steal somebody's cell phone. They could take it to one of the Arabs, at like
Mm-hmm.
one of them little corner stores, and the Arabs send it overseas. So they could get whatever $1,000 for a new iPhone, and they'll give you like $200 for a stolen phone. So you make your money over here, they make their money back selling it overseas, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. However that works. Like I was thinking it was fucking pointless to like steal people's cell phones and to steal cars because all cars are fucking tracked now. Like if
Yeah.
you steal a 1979 Cadillac DeVille, that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
like because you can't really track it. But why you gonna steal a fucking Hellcat?
Yeah. You know what? I think it really depends on the specific phone and a specific car. Because like
Okay.
iPhones, I don't think you can, if an iPhone is locked,
Hmm.
if you lock your own iPhone and you forget your passcode, you just don't have an iPhone anymore because nobody can break into it. Somebody could
Really?
sell it and maybe sell some of the pieces like the screen
Right.
or the outside case and some of that stuff, but otherwise it's a brick.
Hmm.
Because that was one of the things that they did, because there was this, I don't know if you remember, but like in around 2017, something like that. There was this epidemic of people's phones getting snatched, iPhones specifically.
Okay.
And so they updated it so that, like, if you sell an iPhone, you have to unlock it and take your name out of it in a specific way. Otherwise, when the new person tries to install it, it's going to be like, oh boy has to take his name off of this first. So he's got to put his password in. Otherwise, I'm not doing nothing.
Oh wow.
So I think it really depends. Now, a lot of these Android phones, it could be different because Android, they do their own thing. So some of these
Okay.
Samsung phones and stuff.
Right.
So, but it depends. It's on a company by company basis. Like if it's LG or whoever.
Interesting.
But the same thing with like cars. Like the more cars that have this built-in OnStar type stuff,
Hmm.
the more likely you are that you're gonna get tracked or whatever. You know?
Right. That's what I didn't like. I just didn't understand. Like, once all the cars were, to put it in the old term, low jacked,
Mm-hmm.
like, what was the fucking point of taking them? They could
Yeah.
just find them bitches if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now I don't know what type of criminal investigation has to be launched, for the police to get involved and be like, hey, could you locate this car, you know, with a serial number A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because, all the serial numbers are on record somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so or not serial numbers.
The
I
VIN
guess they're
numbers.
serial. VIN numbers. There you go.
Yeah.
Like all of that shit's on fucking record. I don't know. Like I just feel like because there's been an uptick in it lately, because there was somebody who, made somebody run their shit out of a fucking Range Rover
Mm-hmm.
the other day up here. They was all on the news and shit. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, that's what they get for flaunting their wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And like Lydia was half offended. She was like, what do you mean flaunting their wealth? They're just buying, they're just driving a car. I'm like, right, but there's only one reason to be fucking driving that fucking car. It's a goddamn status symbol. Like
That's kind of true.
they don't buy those cars because they're great vehicles. Those
No.
things fucking break down left and right like a motherfucker. It's not the reason that they fucking buy them is because it's
Yes.
worth the money. It's a fucking
Yes.
status symbol. Like, and that's what I mean by flaunting their fucking wealth.
Dude,
Like, get the fuck out of here.
there's a you know how they have these car magazines, they do all the
Hmm.
car reviews and shit.
Yeah.
So there's this one dude who does that type of stuff like
Okay.
professionally, and he has like a YouTube channel of his own.
Right. That makes sense.
And a few years, this is like maybe 20, 25, I don't know, this is a while ago. But he did this whole thing where he was like, I'm gonna go buy a car at CarMax and I'm gonna get their warranty and I'm gonna just see what happens. So he
Okay.
bought like a 2008 or 2009 Range Rover
Mm.
and he got the CarMax warranty.
Right.
And it's like a full, it was because they don't sell it anymore, but it was like a full, like everything warranty. You had to pay a
Like
whole
a
bunch of
bumper
money
to
for it.
bumper, right?
Yeah. Like he had to pay like 5 grand, 6 grand for the warranty.
Hmm.
He ended up getting like $15,000 worth of repairs.
Damn.
It was insane because that car is a piece of shit.
Yeah, those cars are notorious for being just pieces of shit.
And it's funny because, like, coincidentally, he was a YouTube channel guy. So he has just video after video of all the shit breaking and him taking it in and they fix it. 2 weeks later, here's another video. Oh, now the power steering don't work. Just all kinds of stuff. It was embarrassing.
I
Like, it was in,
remember whenever Quinones had his, like every time it would break down, it
uh-huh.
cost him like $3,200 because it was something with the fucking computer. He would
Yeah.
always say, "Oh, it's something with the computer. The computer
Wow.
this, the computer." $3,200 fucking dollars every time it broke down.
That's
Fuck
crazy.
out of here!
Yeah.
Like that's a fucking status symbol. That's like niggas wearing Rolexes and shit.
So that's an example of how capitalism doesn't work in some ways. Because hypothetically, if you sell a shitty product, then you're not going to be successful.
Right.
But these people have been able to say, "Oh yeah, I know it's shitty, but it's expensive."
But it looks good. Right. And
Yeah,
it's
so I
expensive.
mean, you should buy it anyway. And these dumb dumbs like, "Yeah, I'll buy it." Because like it doesn't matter to them. And see, that's the thing. Like I do feel a little bad for some of these like hood rat people that
Mm,
buy like these cars they can't really afford.
right.
Because it's one thing
Which
if,
is almost any car.
yeah, to a
Like
certain
cars are
extent,
ridiculously expensive,
they are.
and
Yeah.
most people cannot afford them.
No.
Like, and that's why they have 72-month, fucking plans to fucking pay
Yep.
cars off, because you have to stretch somebody's realistic, 30-40 grand budget, and they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
buy a 30-40 grand car, and they can't afford that shit. So
Yeah.
you got to stretch it the fuck out, pay 250 a month for the next forever.
Yeah. And I mean, you can't buy like a cheap car because they're like, okay, well, we could make a car that's just like, with roll up ass windows and, no radio, just bare bones. But they're like, we're not going to do that because we could only make $2,000 a car
Right.
instead of $10,000 a car.
Exactly.
I'm like, why would we do that? And so then everybody does the same thing, and then nobody sells like there's like two $10,000 cars you could buy,
Right.
and then and they never have that one. It's like, oh no, we're sold out. We only
Yeah.
got the higher one.
Exactly.
Like
My
it's
mother-in-law just went through that because somebody
yeah,
rear-ended her probably 3-4 weeks ago,
uh-huh,
totaled her car, and all she had basically was the money from the insurance payoff, which was a couple grand,
mm-hmm.
as a down payment on another car. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure she's in a Nissan Versa now,
Oh
which
yeah,
is one of the cheapest cars you can actually purchase.
yeah,
Like, and they designed it that way,
mm-hmm.
from what I understand, from when I was working at Nissan, and they were trying to make a car for 10 grand basically,
Yeah,
but it still turned out like 13 grand, 14,
yeah.
something like that. They couldn't even get the price down that low. But
Yep. I mean,
cars are fucking expensive. It's like, if, and then something else I don't fucking get. What I was gonna say was, if people actually stuck to their budgets, there wouldn't be nearly as many cars on the road. If like people actually lived their paycheck, like there wouldn't nearly be as many cars on the road. And but I forgot the second part. My bad. Oh
I
well.
mean that is kind of true, but I think there's also something to be said. Like I have been genuinely surprised at the number of people that can actually afford outrageous bullshit.
Okay.
And I think that's because I grew up in like a poor ass neighborhood, you know,
Okay.
and I did not grow up in like an affluent Caucasian family.
All right. Yeah. Me
Cause
either.
like
Funny
that
enough.
was cause that was one of the things I was gonna say. Like, okay, Range Rover, it's a piece of shit car, right? If you can afford every week to throw 3,200 bucks at it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Right.
I spend that much on lobster dinners or
Right.
like gas for my boat or whatever. So I don't
Right.
care. Like whatever. I make $50,000 a month. Like
Right.
what do I care?
Right.
You know? But the problem is that like we have unrealistically raised that sort of bar to make it seem because like anytime you hear these politicians talk like, oh, these people are just poor because they're stupid or something, like everybody.
They're poor because they want to be.
Yeah, like everybody makes, if you just get up and
Right.
just fart in the morning and you'll make 20 grand a month. Like, what the hell are you
Right.
talking about, dude? Like, Like these people are completely out of touch with reality.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's our like if you watch a football game, think about the type of people who watch football and think about the cars that they advertise. Like sure they advertise pickup trucks, but they advertise a lot of Lexuses and BMWs and
Yeah,
shit too,
right.
which doesn't make sense to me.
No, it shouldn't.
The type
But
of people that are actually, watching these fucking football games make 30, 40 grand a year. They can't
mhm,
afford a $70,000 vehicle. Like,
yeah.
but they make it so that, you want to pay, six, seven, $800 a month on a car note. And that makes sense to so many people because there's a lot of people, our neighbors, no fucking way in hell. Our neighbors to the north, the neighbors that we're actually cool with.
Mhm.
Wait, no, that's neighbors to the south. Sorry. Our neighbors to the south, they got, dude's got a Challenger. He's got a Traverse. He's got an Equinox. He's got a older Tahoe. He's got a Trailblazer.
Damn.
And there's one other vehicle that's some sort of Chevy that he has. And I've talked to him about the Challenger because he claims he can't even drive it in the winter without putting like 200 pounds of salt in the back so that it keeps the fucking wheels down or whatever.
Yeah, because he doesn't know how to
But
fucking drive.
right, yeah, that's exactly what I said too. But I mean, if you, and none of them are like paid for, from what I understand.
Damn.
Like, so you gotta think, the fucking Challenger's gonna, be a $300-400 note. The Traverse is definitely gonna be a $300 or $400 note. The Equinox might be a $200 note. But just you go and you keep adding up all of these fucking vehicles,
Mhm.
and it's like dudes got to be spending 3-4 grand a month in fucking vehicles. Now I
Damn.
know they don't necessarily pay rent, and they live there with whoever owns the fucking property or whatever her name is, which I don't know. But
Yeah.
like, and it's her daughter and her daughter's husband or whatever, and they got one kid that's not the dude's kid. Like, and that kid is a fucking menace. He's always cursing out the fucking grandmother. The fuck,
Oh yeah.
don't you fucking do it? Blah 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 blah. He's always.
Wow.
I would beat that kid's ass. Like there would be, like, he says shit that is an auto swing. Like he just says shit that you would automatically swing on his dumb ass.
Yeah.
Like, because kids from our families just don't fucking, you just don't.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Wow.
It's not gonna fucking happen. And but anyway, like,
Wow.
just thinking about, going back to the people who actually watch football and who actually, you know, they're not. I mean, I guess if he trades in 3 of those cars, he could have a fucking Lexus if he wanted to. But my whole point, I believe, was that people spend a ridiculous amount of money on fucking car notes.
Yeah.
So there's people, because we got this 2020 Acadia, and it's like 380 or some shit like that,
Yeah.
and that's a fucking GMC, so it's, kind of a top of the line vehicle to a certain degree, depending on what level you want to go, but like talking about like a Escalade or something like that, you're starting out at $800 a month. Like,
Yeah.
is people driving Escalades, if they don't have, a $30,000 down payment, like your fucking note is ridiculous
Mhm.
for a fucking $80,000 fucking truck. Like that
Yeah.
shit is ridiculous. Like cars in general are so fucking expensive. There was one point in the last couple of weeks that I honestly didn't think that my mother-in-law was going to be able to get another vehicle because she's on Social Security. She got,
Yeah.
like laid off when they closed like two or three departments at my wife's job, who she was out of work for like 2 years
Mm-hmm.
trying to find, work that was applicable or whatever you would call it.
Yeah.
But, her mom got fucking laid off at the same time. Unfortunately, she was just that much closer to retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So it was going to be a lot harder for her to get anything.
Yeah.
Like, and she's been out of work since. And, there was the time I didn't think she was going to be able to get a car at all. I thought she was going to be ass out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, but she
Yeah.
got one yesterday. Lydia was gone literally all day yesterday with her mom.
Yeah. Well, it's good it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out. She got a car.
But like there's a bigger there's something to be said, obviously, about letting people do what they want. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to let people do what they want. But I don't think if what you want to do is convince people and brainwash people into doing shit that's going to make life worse for the everyone else, like maybe you shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Okay.
Like if you want to go fishing, that's cool. But if part of your thing is that you want to make money by convincing an entire generation or three of people to buy shit that they can't afford, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. Like part of the problem with the the 2008 or 2009 housing market
Yeah.
crash, like if we had more people who had already owned houses and stuff, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal because there wouldn't have been as many people that were like desperate trying to get a house.
Right.
If we didn't make it super difficult, if we actively encourage people to have houses instead of making it some kind of a prize you had to win, like you got to be special. Like if it was just everybody by default, like you have to try hard to not qualify for a loan for a house.
Right.
Because think about it. Think about the number of people who have like a kind of a shitty job.
Okay.
But if someone would give them a loan, they could pay half as much for a mortgage instead of rent. Like you got people who
Okay.
live in places
Yeah.
like New York and shit to pay like $2,000 a
Yeah.
month.
For a fucking studio.
Yeah, but yeah, they could buy a house somewhere for like
Yeah.
$1,000 a
Easy in
month or some
fucking
shit.
Virginia
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah.
So like, like we have allowed these CEOs to bring it
There we
full
go
circle
again. Yeah.
to, oh yeah, like it's okay for us to just, bullshit people into wanting to buy a bunch of shit and making it normalizing,
Right.
carrying, all this heavy debt and stuff.
Right.
And that because like another problem is like, because I've seen a lot of people, which is I understand it's technically true. From a mathematical standpoint, it is not necessarily a good idea to buy a house.
Right.
From an investment standpoint, you would be better served by investing your money in some kind of financial bullshit,
Right.
401k, or
Some
putting it in
Bitcoin.
something. But what happens in a society where nobody owns a house, so nobody really has a sense of ownership of their neighborhood? That's how you get situations where people walk down the street and they literally see like a fucking 55-gallon drum of oil like bobbing in the fucking creek going down
Mm-hmm.
the river. They're like, yeah, this ain't my neighborhood. Why do I
Yeah.
care? Like,
Fuck it.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're dumping oil in the river.
Who cares? You know what? I'm gonna be a millionaire next
It ain't
year.
my river.
Exactly.
Right.
So I don't know. Like, I could be wrong, but I feel like if we
Yeah.
encouraged people to give a damn, maybe more people would give a damn. If we gave
And
people reasons to give a damn.
right. Yeah, I think that is the thing.
You heard about
This is probably a decent segue. You heard about reparations in Evanston?
No, not in Evanston. I don't think so.
So now I didn't read in detail about it, but like supposedly the city of Evanston is gonna hand out checks, or they're due to hand out checks to like black people or whatever at the rate of like 25 grand a check. And this is my problem with fucking reparations. It's similar to my problem with the trans community, as if I have a problem with them. But it's like I feel like the trans community and the gay community are like jumping the line whenever it comes to like wanting equal rights and wanting this and wanting that. Whenever this country, I almost called it a company again, this country doesn't even accept black people. So for you
Yeah.
to get all in your feelings and want to be first in line for your rights and this, that, I just feel like they're jumping the line. So similarly, when it comes to reparations, I feel like if anybody needs to be paid reparations, it's the 3 Native Americans that are left in this fucking country. Like y'all literally stole they shit, they whole shit. And then you killed them enough for someone who has traveled this entire fucking country. I've only met like 2 or 3 Native Americans, and that was at the side of a road in like, Oklahoma somewhere or Nevada or some shit. I don't even remember. Like, but so I just feel like it's kind of a two-pronged problem. With black people, you're jumping the fucking line. Like, black people don't deserve reparations before Native Americans, in my opinion. And then secondly, it's like, you gonna give motherfuckers like Kamala Harris a check? Like, she's not ADOS. Like, how do you prove somebody's not just Jamaican? Like, all their ancestries from fucking Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of it is, descendants of actual fucking slaves. How do you prove that? And then what percentage gets it? Because don't forget, I'm 52% white according to Ancestry. So would a 52% white person get it? Or am I too white to get reparations? Do you need to be 60 or 80 or 77%? You know what I mean? How
Yeah.
do you determine who the fuck gets reparations? And if you're only 50% white, you only get half a check. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's just shit like that. Like, what about all the people who aren't descendants of fucking slaves? You can't just get them a check because they black, because they fucking Haitian or some shit, or they're Egyptian. They ain't got shit to do with American slavery, which
Yeah.
is kind of what I think the point of paying reparations would be,
Hmm.
for the unpaid wages,
Yeah.
But that's my issue, fucking reparations, because I don't think you could really dish it out.
Yeah. No,
And
that's a good point.
I think you're jumping the fucking line, because these fucking people love to not talk about how they came over to this country, because they hate immigrants so much. But all their fucking ancestors are immigrants. But they hate immigrants so much. Oh,
Yeah.
don't be coming to our shores and doing this and that and the other thing. You're a fucking immigrant. Fuck
Yeah.
are you talking about? You're
Yep.
3rd generation Italian or something. You know what I mean? Like, get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here. Like, they be killing me with that immigration shit. Like,
Yeah. You know, one thing I'll say is the Native Americans sort of have a different situation. Like I don't disagree with the idea that, you know, they need their own reparations.
Right.
But one, they need to be in charge of that, you know, for better or
Okay.
worse, because, you know, we can't be having us tell, you know, what to do.
Native Americans, what their lives were worth.
Yeah. And then the other thing though is that they already have a sort of independent status. Like a
Yeah,
friend of
but there's
mine,
5 of them.
oh yeah, but that's not the point. The point
Well,
is that they have a separate legal status. Like a friend
right,
of mine,
right.
his he has a, I think his cousin or somebody was like she was like a cop that somehow it's some special cop to do with the reservation.
Okay.
But she was the only person that could go on the reservation. Like she's the only one who had legal authority to trespass, so to speak,
Okay.
into the reservation to do official shit with the government and stuff. Like if you're just a
Yeah,
regular cop,
aren't they like
they can't chase people into,
sovereign,
yeah. You can't just chase
sovereign
people.
nation or something like that?
Yeah, the same way you can't just chase a motherfucker into Canada, you just can't chase a motherfucker into a reservation.
Uh, Fucking reservation.
Yeah.
I've been past some of them reservations, man, and I remember being in Montana
Mm-hmm.
and I was driving, and it took me forever to get through this town because there was just a horse walking in the middle of the street.
Oh yeah.
And you blew the horn at it, it didn't give a fuck. It's a horse.
You
Like
mean a
it
horse
didn't.
just by itself?
Just bareback horse, no saddle, no person with it, no nothing. Just a fucking horse.
It's just vibing.
Just walking in the middle of the fucking road, taking its sweet fucking time like it was a horse.
Yeah.
And it had nothing else to do because it wasn't hungry at the time. And
Yeah.
I guess there was nothing to fuck at the time. So it really had nothing to do. And it was walking like a nigga with their hands in their pockets in the middle of the hood where they just go into the corner anyway.
Uh-huh.
Like that's how
Wow.
slow this fucking horse was walking. Like there's nothing you could do about it. Like
Yeah.
it's just nothing. It's, nah, nah. Just
That's
kept it
funny.
moving. Luckily, it, finally walked off the road and I was able to fucking drive by because there was steady traffic,
Yeah.
in the other way. So it's not like you just drive around the bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it was. But anyway, it was one of the poorest places I've ever laid my eyes on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was some sort of national reservation. There were signs up and shit like that I had
Yeah.
plenty of time to read because a horse was
Yeah.
walking in the middle of the fucking street.
So
But
have you heard about there's this group of Native Americans in Canada who never surrendered their land to the Canadian government. Did you ever hear about
no,
them?
mm-mm.
I
That's
can't
pretty
think of
cool.
I can't think of the name.
They
Um,
Comanches got to
no,
be some bad motherfuckers.
no, it's something with a W, I think, and
Okay,
it's got the sound of womp sound in it.
okay,
I don't know. I had to look it up. But anyway, so the deal is that like back in the 1800s or whatever, when they created Canada, they're like, oh, well, okay, so we signed a treaty with all these Indians except these guys. These guys don't want to fucking sign, and we can't
mm.
force them to sign. And they're just like, fuck it, don't worry about it. Just don't. They don't want to sign, they don't fucking sign. We'll
Right. We
figure it
just
out
won't
later.
go in that little circle.
Yeah. So they basically consciously decided, even though they didn't sign and they didn't have legal rights to the land, that they were just going to pretend that they did. So they just started passing laws and shit, like saying like, oh, no TPs, nobody can have TPs in Canada. and then they'd go in where these people are at and cut their teepees down. And I'm just making that shit up as an
Right.
example.
I got you.
So
Just
they did
giving
shit
an
like that.
example.
They just pretended that they owned the motherfucking place since the 1800s. And so
Hope these motherfuckers started slaying their ass.
fairly recently, someone rediscovered like, hey, they never actually surrendered this land. So all of this land is not Canadian land. This land is actually the sovereign land of this
Tribe.
tribe.
Right.
And so they took it, I think it might have gone to the Supreme Court. It went to some rather high court in Canada. And the court decided, well, I mean, they've been making laws for this place anyway. So we're just going to pretend like you know, it's okay. Even though we have proof right here that this land does belong to these people and this has been wrong all of these centuries, we don't care because whatever, fuck these guys, right?
Right.
Because
There's
it's
7 of them
inconvenient.
anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, like you have a really valid point. Like, and honestly, in some ways, if we can never make things right with the Native American people, how do we ever expect that to happen for Black people in this country?
Right. And it's like I was listening to Bill Maher, not this week, because
Mm-hmm.
Charlemagne the God was on Bill Maher this week. It was last week. And Bill Maher, you know how before he goes to his table and sits down, he does a monologue and then he
Yeah.
interviews somebody
Mm-hmm.
individually and
Yeah.
then he goes to the panel or
Mm-hmm.
whatever he calls it.
Yeah.
The person that he interviewed was some white chick. I don't know if it was Megan something from Fox News, the people that she was half naked all the time and like she was always crossing and uncrossing her legs, and it was a big thing that
Mm-hmm.
people made because like she's not attractive to like probably me and you, assuming you don't like skinny white women, you know, but
Yeah.
like she was considered hot for like white dudes, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Megan McKelly or Megan Kelly
It
or
might have been
something
Megyn
like that.
Kelly. They made a movie recently about like
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
supposedly they were forced to do that shit
Okay.
because they got
Yeah.
hired and they were like, well,
Right.
you got to do this, otherwise, why are we
Right.
gonna have you here?
Yeah. So her,
Yeah.
but what her and Bill were fucking talking about started pissing me off. Now, normally I like Bill Maher,
Uh huh.
but he was just a little too much on his white boy high horse. And they were talking about something to where like the Megan bitch was like, she was like, it's getting to a point to where, you know, people are having to be made ashamed of like being white because of what their ancestors did. And that's not right. Bitch, what? Like she was literally saying that like white people are forced to be ashamed of being like slave owners and shit like that,
Mm-hmm.
and how that wasn't right to make them feel like that, you know, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And I was just mad. I was like, wait, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, you know, yeah, maybe you should be ashamed of that shit.
Yeah.
Because if you're ashamed of your, you know, great grandpappy owning slaves, how do you think slaves feel?
Yeah.
How do you think the descendants of slaves feel? You were a descendant of an owner.
Mm-hmm.
We're descendants of slaves. Like,
Yeah.
and we got shitty jobs. Like, what the fuck? I just, that shit was sending me the fuck off. And Bill was like, he was half agreeing with her. So it
Yeah.
was, you know, just because he wasn't disagreeing with her pissed me off.
And part of the problem is that, like, it's one thing if we'll use the example. This still kind of annoys me because I hate when you get to deal with these white people like, well, I grew up poor, so that means I'm just like black
Yeah.
people. Like,
Oh, I got
no.
a story about that too. Go ahead.
But I can see that. Like if you are like a white person and your family didn't have shitloads of money, maybe somebody did own one or two slaves or whatever,
Right.
but like you're just a normal kind of a relatively poor person now, you're just regular American.
Right.
I can sort of understand that. But when you literally live in like a fucking mansion and you were born like a millionaire
Yeah. You
and
had a
like,
maid
oh,
and
I got
shit.
this job because my grandfather and my great grandfather went to this place and he worked here and went to Harvard and all
Right.
this other kind of shit. Like you, every day of your life, you directly benefit
Right.
from the position, the social and economic position of your ancestors.
Yep.
And if that was derived in any part from forced labor, from slaves or whatever, maybe you should feel ashamed about that
Right.
because you didn't earn that, like, you know, honestly.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that was earned literally at the expense of other people, treating other people literally like property.
That's like Al Capone's kids, who are in decent positions in life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like them being proud. You know what I mean? Like, your fucking father was a gangster.
Yeah.
Like, or your grandfather, your great grandfather, whatever. Like, like that's equivalent to them being a fucking shitbag. Like, again,
Yeah.
like these CEOs that I'm fucking
Yeah.
talking about. They're
I didn't
fucking
grow up in
pieces of
Oak
shit.
Park because my
Exactly.
grandfather wasn't a fucking gangster. Part of the
Right.
reason you grew up in Oak Park is because your
Exactly.
grandfather was a fucking gangster.
Exactly. In a fucking, $750,000 house.
Yeah.
Like, you ain't just gonna end up there. Like,
But see, that's the thing. Oh yeah, like this I didn't, this is just anybody could have this if they work hard enough.
right. That shit be killing me.
Yeah.
That's why I don't know if me and you have ever talked about it necessarily, but like, that's part of my problem with people like Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
Because Steve Harvey always wants to talk about how at one point in his life he like slept in his car and he was homeless, and
Mm-hmm.
you just hard work and dedication and blah 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 get you there and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, basically, type of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's outside of him being, and I hesitate to say this, but extremely talented,
Mm-hmm.
in one genre being comedy.
Yeah.
Like, and it takes away all of that. Like, because the only way black people really succeed in this country is entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are a few, for all the people like Lydia out there in the world who always like to bring up the few. Like, when I talk shit about lawyers, she's got good friends that are lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so she wants to kind of defend them. Well, not everybody. Right, for that argument. Well, not all of them. Oh, okay. Well, for the fucking few, that fucking live like that, like I just could never get behind, like Steve Harvey and his, you know, uh, whatever, his fucking speeches about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and all that bullshit, because like, you had a talent that got you out of your situation. You were able to make people laugh for however many years, even if you can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were able to be an entertainer, yeah. But that's not everybody's fucking story. Everybody's not dedicated enough or talented enough to, be whatever, a comedian or an actor or a basketball player, football player, something like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the only way that black people ever get out the hood, for real. And like something ridiculous, like 1 to 5% of like, you know, like ethnic people fucking do that shit. So
Yeah.
like, unless you're part of that small percentage, yeah, I'm not listening to you, Steve.
Like I
Even.
mean, it's not that difficult. If you look at it, if you believe in math, right?
Right.
If you look at different groups of white people,
Mm-hmm.
like you look at like Italian people or Irish people or whatever, right?
Right.
You will see a fairly consistent percentage of like Italian people versus Irish people versus
Mm-hmm.
Polish people who are at certain income levels and stuff, right?
Right.
Or certain profession, you know, shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, so just for example, if this group of white people is like 2% of the population of white people in the US,
Mm-hmm.
then roughly 2% of the lawyers
Right.
and doctors and other shit like that
Right.
will be true, because there's not a lot of artificial things that are preventing them from doing what they want to do. We all grew up in the same society. We're all subject to the same, oh, I want to be a fireman or whatever is real cool
Right.
when you're a little kid, the same little propaganda, you know,
Right.
gets pushed into
Yeah.
people's heads. So it's an
You
even
can do
percentage.
anything.
Yeah. So it's an even percentage, generally speaking, of kids across all the different things are going to want to be certain professions and stuff.
Right.
But you don't see that with black people in this country.
Yeah.
Like black people should be a solid like 15 to 20% of everything in this country. And they're
Right.
not. And it's not
At
because
all.
black people are stupid or
Right.
dishonest more so than anyone else or any other
Right.
shit like that. It's because of like structural racism and other things.
Right.
You know, like you can't see that with Native Americans because there's not nearly enough of
There's
them.
not enough of them.
But I mean, you do see it because there's tons of black people. You even see it with certain groups of Latinos,
Okay.
you know, like Mexicans and stuff, which they
Yeah.
have their own, you know, Latinos have this whole other thing.
Yeah, they got. But I have less sympathy for them because a lot of them motherfuckers is racist too.
Yeah, no, that's true. They,
That's my thing with
they
them.
were like, oh, you dating a darkie, huh?
Right. Exactly.
You get
Exactly.
you a nice white boy. They're like, oh, okay, bueno.
And I wanted to say a while ago, whenever you had mentioned, you know, whatever, something about like white people having a story about, you know, like poor whites.
Oh yeah.
And Bose texted me the other day
Uh-huh.
and he's like, hey man, how's life treating you?
Mm-hmm.
And my response was, oh, you know, like a poor black man. So pretty shitty, I guess.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, well, you know, I'm from the same something. I guess we're on the same boat.
Here we go.
Yeah. And then I'm like, my response to him was, well, I guess same boat, different sections. Like,
This
but it's
motherfucker's up
like,
having a pina colada on the,
right, on the deck,
yeah.
you know, versus, you know, shoveling coal in the goddamn steam room.
Yeah.
Like, but I feel a certain way about shit like that nowadays, you know,
Yeah.
like, because like I know his history, you know, his mom had 9 kids, she was poor as dirt, like, and they had nothing, and that's part of the reason why it was accepted that he used the fucking N-word, you know,
Yeah.
because he was raised like one of us and he came up like us, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of shunning him because of his skin tone, you know, we embraced him and accepted him, you know.
Yeah.
um I even had issues getting accepted because of my light skin tone.
Mm-hmm.
When I was over here on like Latrobe and North Avenue playing basketball when I was in, you know, middle school, like my
Mm-hmm.
nickname was White Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't make any fucking sense, but whatever,
Yeah.
I get it. You know what I mean? Like, It was one of those nicknames that I only got that nickname because I could play ball for real anyway.
Yeah.
So it was one of them, like, you might as well be happy about your nickname type of thing. But, like, so I don't, and then of course, because of like, she was mistreated because she was Catholic. She was mistreated because she was poor. All of them things, like, all that's legit. It is classism to a certain extent in this country. It's
Yeah.
just you can't really compare classism to racism because it's so much heavier. Nobody was
Yeah.
hanging white people because they flirted with one of their affluent females. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Peepaw wasn't getting strung up in a tree because he said, "Hey, cutie."
Yeah.
Like, it was
Y-
one of those things.
There's a there's a guy. He's he teaches, I don't know, he teaches something at this university in Georgia. And he has a YouTube channel. He has some stuff on there every once in a while. And he's pretty blunt about what he thinks the problem is, and I think he's kind of right. And to generalize it, like, the culture of white people in this country is like psychopathic,
Yeah.
and it's like it takes advantage of people, it's predatory, like,
Yeah.
it's horrible. And that's not to say that this is not like all Caucasian
Right.
people, but there is a very specific culture of Southern, like, Protestant
Yeah.
white people that are just mean and just kind of like evil and hateful. And I mean, they weren't just doing this shit to black people. Like, they would, like, the whole thing you're just talking about. Like,
Yeah.
really, you're gonna shit on Catholic people
Right.
because you're Protestant? Like, there's just something fucking wrong with these people. And these
Yeah.
people have been accepted as like, oh, I mean, sometimes people have different opinions. Like,
Yeah.
this
Okay.
shit has been accepted for centuries in this country. And that's part of the problem that we have now with like all these white supremacists and shit. Because for so long, white people who are not racist and not white supremacists and don't believe in all that shit would just stand there while their fucking crazy ass fucking friend would say all kinds of crazy shit. It was like, oh, well, that's just the way Chuck is. Like,
Right.
no, you need to stop hanging out with Chuck, and you need to call Chuck like the piece of shit that he is.
Right.
And these people need to be ostracized. They need to not be allowed to hold public office. They
Yeah.
can't be the sheriff. They can't be on the fucking police force. And if there's any problem that I have with white people as a broad category, it's that they have not policed this shit. Because
Okay.
I think for the most part, black people are pretty good about policing certain things within their own group. Like, you can only be so fucking crazy
Right.
before people like
For
stop
you
fucking
has
with
to
you.
say.
Yeah. But I mean, aside from literally eating people, a lot of white people are like, oh, I mean, he's just kind of eccentric. He's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
He's on the fringe. He has fringe political beliefs. How many people literally have eaten Thanksgiving dinner more than 4 times in their life with their cousin who's literally a Nazi?
Right.
I mean, I don't mean like, oh, he just kind of like, no, he's literally a Nazi. He
He just
tells
likes to
people,
say the word nigger. No,
yeah,
he's a fucking Nazi. He's
yeah,
got one of them American History X,
yeah,
fucking swastikas on his fucking chest, and he works
yeah,
out.
uh-huh,
Like,
yeah. And I think, that's really the thing that needs to be fixed. That's the problem that needs to be solved. Like, these people, these crazy ass white people need to be canceled by all the rest of the white people.
yeah,
Finally, for the first time ever.
right,
Like, your racist ass uncle, you need to never talk to him again until he stops that shit.
right,
Your grandfather's a fucking racist, fuck him too.
right.
Like, that's what needs to happen, because as long as these
Yeah,
people are accepted, then that behavior is just going to be circulating around.
And that's why I just feel like, well, it's kind of mixed feelings, because at one point I look on one end, I look forward to snowflakes taking office, because I feel like if you're a snowflake, you're probably less racist than, your grandparents, like, but at the same time, it's like the shit that they care about is still gonna be off. Like, again, like people seeking, like whatever, instead of going in office trying to get equal pay and, trying to get, like places to stop being racist, you're focused on, letting your dog be left money in a will. Did I complain about that with you yet?
No, I don't think so.
I'll make it kind of short.
But old white ladies have been doing that shit forever, though. Old rich
But
white ladies.
my fucking problem with it is, who passed this shit into law? Like, why was this taken to a court and made legal? There was this dog in the last, 2 months, in the last month, that was left $5 million. Like, why is that even legal? To leave a thing, a living thing, something that doesn't speak English, it doesn't comprehend any language at all, rough, like, why is it even legal to leave a dog money? Because somebody decided that it meant more than racism to chase down this fucking law and waste taxpayers' time and money passing this law that makes it legal for fucking foo-foo to goddamn get left a goddamn huge sum of money, which is only controlled by the fucking person that is in charge of foo-foo. Why don't you just leave the motherfucker that's watching foo-foo the money? You don't know one human in your life, one fucking human that's worth giving $5 million to, you're going to give it to a fucking dog that is being taken care of by a human who's ultimately going to be in charge of this dog's money. My problem is that they wasted time and taxpayers' money and all this other shit, when I'm sure, I don't give a fuck if this was going on in the 50s and the 60s and the 90s, and it doesn't fucking matter. Like, something was going on to where, like, black people were dying in this fucking country. They were being mistreated. A million things were going on that was more important than legalizing the fact that you can leave a pet money. But this is what you motherfuckers do, because you care about dogs more than you do niggas.
Yeah, I mean, what can you do, man?
And that's what I'm just basically trying to get over lately.
Yeah.
Is just shit that I can do literally nothing about, letting it go, just letting shit go, because there's
Yeah.
so much that I can do absolutely nothing about, which goes back to the Steve Harvey people that I dislike, who are successful black people and they're always basically telling people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And, like, but there are a lot of situations in a lot of people's lives that are outside of their control. And there's not a
Uh-huh.
goddamn thing you could do about it. You could go to college, you could graduate. You probably know people with 2 and 3 bachelor degrees who can't get a decent job.
Mm-hmm.
Black, white, Spanish, whatever they are, it don't matter. Like in that case, like,
Yeah.
but like it's just one of them things. I just can't get behind it, and I can't listen to people that believe that your destiny is in your hands at all times and shit like that. I just can't get behind it.
You know what my big problem with that whole thing is? And I don't know. I mean, when I feel charitable and I give these people the benefit of the doubt,
Okay. Which I
I
never do, by the way.
yeah, I try to sometimes, but
I can see that.
it's not always easy. But what I say is what they probably meant to say is something like this. And I think it's just because maybe they just didn't think about it enough or they don't communicate clearly enough. But the best that I can think of is like I think of it as the advice that I would give like my daughter, right?
Okay.
Like for your own personal protection, you should not go to places where you might be in danger. You should be careful about the types of clothing that you wear around different men and all this other
Okay.
kind of shit.
Right.
I'm not saying that it should be that's okay and that's the acceptable way that it should be,
Right.
and you have to like these are the rules and you have to follow them because
Right.
it is your burden to do so. It is your responsibility. Like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that. I'm telling you this because I'm trying to convey to you the understanding that there are lots of people who are not you who are more privileged than you are, and they will be able to bend and break the rules in whatever way that they want. And so in order to prevent you from being one of the people that gets shit on when these people decide that they can do whatever it is that they want, you should consider going a little extra mile at the expense of possibly at the expense of your own personal freedom to do whatever you want to do to maintain your safety. That's a choice that you can make.
Yeah.
It's not fair and it's not okay.
Right. Correct.
And we can do whatever we can to try to fix it. But at the end of the day, I would much rather listen to you complain about how you couldn't wear that new skirt that you bought to the party that you wanted to go to instead of having to listen to you cry because something horrible happened to you
Right.
and us having to
Somebody
try
was
to
groping you at a party or something.
yeah, and then us having to try to get this person to be held accountable for what they did.
Right.
And I think that's one of the problems that
Or
a
for
lot of
me having to go out and kill him.
yeah, and I think that's one of the problems that if I'm being charitable, people like
Right.
Steve Harvey don't do enough. Like they
Right.
should be saying like, yes, life is not fair, but we know that. And
Right.
so what I'm telling you on the side is that like you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps because these motherfuckers ain't gonna help you. The chips are stacked against us. So at the same time that we are trying to unstack those chips so that your kids don't have to go the extra mile, I'm telling you for your own personal success that your the bottom minimum bar where you should place your bar needs to be
Mm.
higher than it is for like other groups of people, and you need to force yourself to work harder, like that kind of a thing. But they
Right.
don't do that. At least the way it comes across is, stop being lazy and you're just making excuses. And that maybe that's true for some people, maybe it's true sometimes, but that's not true all the time for everybody
Right.
who's unsuccessful and black in this country.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I try to just not listen to them people and I just try to pretend that that's what they're saying. Because it's
Yeah.
frustrating to hear
Yeah.
to hear
It's
somebody like Steve
extremely
Harvey.
frustrating to me. Like, especially having, been through my story
Mm-hmm.
to where a bunch of things were done properly and right. And I
Mm-hmm.
have owned businesses and done the entrepreneurial thing, and at the end of the day, the shit just didn't work out,
Yeah.
and you look at it as you may, one way or another. Like you could view it as experience, you could view it as whatever the fuck you want, but it's a failed attempt, irregardless. If you're trying to be on the positive side, it was what do they say? One of them motherfuckers in the videos say it's not a failure, it's an attempt at greatness or something stupid like that, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so whatever, just for the more depressing side of it that I've been struggling with lately is basically just accepting my role in life,
Mm-hmm.
and like that I'm not going to be financially comfortable, you know, and like just accepting that and just trying to live my life so that I can stop thinking about, you know, different ways to become successful,
Mm-hmm.
and I can just actually focus on being a better dad, being a better husband, being a better person, versus trying to, beat myself up so much about losing.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I
that's what
mean,
I've been trying to focus on lately. Like,
yeah.
very, very specifically in the last few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
I've been hitting the pads pretty hard
Yeah.
when it comes to shit like that, because I'm just trying not to be angry all the time.
Yeah.
Like, because on my lowest days, it's more anger than it is sadness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, definitely, I'm more angry about shit than I am sad that
Yeah.
something's going on. Like, so just trying to come to terms, man, and, you know, not to get all psychedelic or nothing, but literally looking at the moon
Mm-hmm.
has become like a thing for me, because you can see something that's not even on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, like,
Yeah.
that's how fucking small we are. And that's how big the fucking moon is.
Yeah.
Like, and, just trying to think about things in a more, or in a less egocentric way, just, trying to come to grips with mortality and all of that shit. Like, we're getting older, we're gonna die. But even with the argument about dying, like, what would life be worth if we never died?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what would push people to be better?
Yeah.
I'm not sure anything would.
It's, I think at the end of the day, you're kind of, you hit the nail on the head, I guess, like you pinpointed it. It's like, it's about perspective.
Yeah.
And the thing about the moon, it makes me think of there's this picture. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called the pale blue dot. So back in the 70s, I think it was the Voyager satellite. There's two Voyager satellites. I think it's Voyager. And they were sending them out to like go to Saturn or some shit, right? One of the
Okay.
far planets.
Right.
But like, they're like, we can't, by the time it gets out there, it's the 70s. We can't bring that motherfucker back. Like, it's just gone. So
Right.
this motherfucker is going out of the solar system. So these two satellites will be the first human objects that we know of to leave the entire solar system completely. And so I think shortly after it had passed Saturn and it was headed out into just millions of years of just nothing, just traveling forever, that that astronomy guy, scientist, I forget what he was exactly. Carl Sagan, you heard of him before?
I've heard the name. Yeah.
Yeah. So he said like, "Hey, it would be really cool if we turned the camera around on that satellite and took a picture of the Earth. And that'll be like the furthest picture of the Earth that has ever been created." So they turned the satellite around and they snapped a picture of the planet Earth. And all you see is just an entirely just a huge black nothingness with like one pixel that's blue.
Wow.
And so that picture is sort of called the pale blue dot. And whenever they released it, he had sort of released like this little quote with it. And he was like, you know, if you, because I mean, it's obvious, but if you just think about it specifically, every single thing that has ever happened to any person who has ever been alive happened inside that one little bitty pixel.
Right.
Jesus, Muhammad,
Yeah.
Genghis Khan,
Right.
all of the Super Bowls, the dinosaurs coming and going,
Right.
everything that anyone has ever told a story about has happened in that one place. And thinking about that really sort of shifts the perspective
Yeah.
of like, you know, like what's important in my life? Like,
Right.
how significant am I compared to literally everything else? Like, in some ways, if you look at it that way, because we walk around like we're big and bad, I could
Mhm.
step on half of the stuff on this planet. Boy, you better watch it.
Right.
My feet
Fucking
is thirsty.
grass. Right.
Yeah. But like literally pretty much everything else in the universe is a million times bigger than us.
Right.
You know, galaxies,
Yeah.
planets, asteroids. We are one of the smallest things
Stars.
in the entire fucking universe.
Right.
And we think all the shit that we do is,
So
you know,
fucking important.
oh, my girlfriend dumped me. Like, really? You know how big your fucking big ass head is compared to a planet, dude?
Right.
You know?
And that's really what I've been like trying to focus on, because part of what got me on this CEO rant of them being actual pieces of shit
Mm-hmm.
was me thinking about like what I really like and what I don't like,
Mm-hmm.
because I've had money and it didn't really do anything for me other than provide security. That was the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing that I liked about having money, was that I could get out of almost anything, you know,
Yeah.
financially. Somebody hits my car, I could buy another one, whatever, you know, type shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, I just started thinking about like shit that I respect, shit that I look up to has nothing to do with business. Like, I'm not a business dude. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
one of these people who, you know, live and breathe, you know, titles, and like, I don't have any respect for any of that shit. Like, I don't give a fuck that somebody is somebody's secretary or whatever. Like, I don't care about that at all. So what I've been kind of looking up to are those dudes who are like whatever, like beach bums, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that they just got an understanding in the world about what's important. Because like I'll watch a video from whatever, somewhere in the Congo or something like that, and these little kids are just kicking around a little ball or something, and they're
Mm-hmm.
they're just having so much fun. And then you swing to the adults, and they're doing their native dancing, and all of this shit. But if you look at their face and you look at their actions, like, they seem happy, like genuinely happy.
Yeah.
And it's like they have nothing compared to Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have nothing, but they found happiness. And that's something I think we don't have. I don't think
Yeah.
Americans have happiness like that, because everything is associated with a dollar sign. Everything is associated with value of some sort. Oh, well, you drive this car, you drive that
Yeah.
car, you live in this house. Nobody talks about love. Nobody talks about family. Nobody talks about shit like that. That's what those people talk about.
Yeah.
So really just watching the way other people live has inspired me to want to find a deeper meaning to this American bullshit life that I'm in.
Yeah.
You know? And then that's something else that pops up too. Like, what really means what? Because I have forever had authority issues, but maybe that's why, because none of that shit matters. It doesn't matter if you're a principal, doesn't matter if you're the general manager, the regional manager, the director, the like, none of that shit has ever meant anything to me. Like, I've never held any value to that at all. I would put Peepaw above any of those people. He was just a hard-working son of a bitch, like, and he could disassemble an engine. He dropped out of school in 6th grade.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't any dumber than anybody else, because he didn't, go to college and all this other bullshit that means something to most people.
Yeah.
But none of that shit, college, none of that shit has ever meant anything to me at all. Like, I've never given a flying fuck about any of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, which is probably why I didn't complete it. Like, and it just, like, I don't know, it just doesn't mean anything. Like, and going back to the universe and the moon and shit like that, like, not to be overly hippie about it, but that shit means more to me, like actual feelings. What type of relationships do you have in your life? Like, shit like that means more to me than, being a CEO of some prominent company, or a lawyer, or a doctor, or, whatever.
Well, yeah, like if you think about it, so regardless of whether or not you're a religious person, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can either think of it as God or you can think of it as evolution.
Okay.
Either way, do you think either of those things, thought, so to speak, like, what I ultimately want is a bunch of hairless monkeys to build really tall buildings and
All
sit
right.
in chairs and wear ties
Right.
and like package cinnamon rolls inside plastic containers and sell them at grocery stores. Like, do you really, like, is that really the purpose of life? Like, no, the purpose of life is just, if you look at any group of people, it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or
Right.
billionaire, if you're like a poor Indonesian man with no teeth smoking a cigarette on his houseboat or some shit.
Right.
when these people are happy and you see them happy, what are they doing? They're sitting somewhere looking at some natural thing like the sun or the water,
Yeah.
and they're just fucking vibing.
Yeah.
Like that is what, like I'm just here, I'm vibing with people that I like. Feels
Yeah.
good, man. Like that, if there's any purpose in life at all, that is
Yeah.
the purpose to do
Right.
that. And then sometimes you got to do other stuff, like you got to feed yourself,
Right.
But aside from that, the purpose of life should be to just hang out with people that you enjoy and just do that. That is what living is.
Right.
But so many people have a vested interest in brainwashing us into thinking that, well, if you don't provide value to my corporation or someone's corporation, then you're not a contributing member of society. You should feel bad about that, you know?
Right.
And it's bullshit. Like, and
Totally.
that's part of the reason why so many people are miserable, because
Yeah.
we have so much psychological manipulation that people don't know heads from tails anymore. Like, I don't
And
know
I
why I'm
feel like
alive.
that's what I'm really dealing with
Yeah.
is deconstructing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Is, like, oh well, you didn't go to school, you didn't do this, you didn't complete that, you don't make this, you don't make that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not the provider, for real in your family, and
Mm-hmm.
shit like that. Like, I'm so much more useful than, somebody who can make 6 figures a year. Like, I'm handy around the house. I'm all of these different things that would mean something. I feel like if the world went to shit
Yeah.
and, like electricity didn't exist anymore and we went back to, you know, older times, like I would be more valuable than
Yeah.
I am right now. Like, and I've just been thinking about shit like that. Like, what really matters? Like, I sit down and I'll play dollhouse with my daughter and I can see her, imagination growing over the days, over the months,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that shit is so much more important to me than the company that I work for and whether or not I'm on time, for
Yeah.
work and whether or not I do my job well that day or not. Like, none of that shit would matter if I failed at my job that day. But if I failed at being a father,
Mm-hmm.
one day, then that would hurt so much more.
Yeah.
Then, and so it's just really like me trying to find some sort of refocus that's actual, that actually means something versus all of this bullshit that we've been taught to care about, because none of that shit matters.
Yeah.
None of the shit you see on fucking TV, none of the shit that's being advertised, none of that shit matters. None of it. Like, and the way that I look at it, like, how are y'all gonna keep selling cars until the world fills up with cars? And then you're gonna start thinking about how to reduce them? Like, why are you trying to sell people new cars every single year? I could understand if you come out with a car every 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
We got generation 2 coming out, in 3
Yeah.
years. Then it would make sense because you're trying to tell people every 10 years their car is probably a piece of shit and you should buy a new one. But I just bought this motherfucker. And now you changed the look and you changed everything. So now my brand new car that's a year old is now a piece of shit because there's a new generation.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like I'm done with that. Just regular people shit. I'm over it. Like I'm just over it. I just can't take it anymore.
It
Too
reminds me,
much.
there's a quote that I read that's really true. It's like there's so many people who get up every morning to go, and they get in a car that they can't afford,
Mhm.
you know, and then they are wearing clothes that they can't afford or that they don't like, and they go to a job that they hate, and the only reason that they're there is so that they can afford the car
Yeah.
and the clothes.
Right.
Like, people get themselves into this circle of misery.
Yeah.
Like, you don't enjoy the car, the clothes, or the job that you use to pay for those two things. Why are you even working? What are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
And like, if you're fine, if you're happy or whatever, then fine. That's you. You do you. But if you're miserable and you hate the current status of your life or whatever, look around at what you're doing. Take stock, try to understand where things went wrong, you know?
Right.
Because
And
one of the
that's
things I was going to
that's
say is
uh
that, like, and this happened to me because I know where you're coming from, but I feel a little bit differently about working now.
okay.
And the key difference is that I don't feel like I work at a place where I'm disposable and
Okay.
they just don't give a fuck about me.
Right.
So whenever I know that, then I'm like, hey, I was playing with my daughter the other day, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? I want to take my daughter. We were doing like a little thing. We made a sandcastle and we made like a little waterfall. I
Mhm.
want to take her to a real waterfall,
Right.
but it's not practical for me to try to walk there. I need money to do that so I could pay for
Right.
gas so we can go see the waterfall.
Right.
And so I'm grateful to my job because I know they appreciate me and they don't take advantage of me. They
Mhm.
pay me a fair, amount of money for what I do, and they appreciate me as an actual person.
Right.
And so I appreciate that money because they let me do stuff that I want to do. I don't feel like there's every time I go to work, somebody's grabbing my arm and twisting it behind my back, making me
Yeah.
do some shit I don't want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely how I feel every day.
Yeah. And I felt like that pretty much every single place I've ever worked until the place that I work now.
Okay.
Because none of these places, all those other places where your typical company, like, we don't
Yeah.
give a fuck about any of these people.
Right.
They're all disposable and
Yep.
it's all about the shareholders or whatever,
Right.
that kind of mentality.
Yeah, and I just can't get behind people that feel that way. Like if that's how you feel as a human being toward your fellow human beings, then I don't respect you.
Yeah.
I don't respect that. And what I'm realizing the older I get is that, like respect comes in different ways in different cultures, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all too often in American culture, money equals respect.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that. Like, again, if you're a piece of shit CEO who cares nothing for the people that work for you, then you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, and I just don't care to be around people who are involved in this American capitalistic society like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste my time talking to people who have bought their way into that system. So all of these people that I work with, and they'll come into the fucking mail room and they want to ship something to Poland.
And I understand the process of shipping shit to Poland. So I can advise them on what to write and however it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you need to declare a value on ABC or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And but when they hand it in to me, like I look at them as like pieces of meat, like in terms of like they're just overly bought into this society. Like it's not necessarily their fault per se that they like it's not my wife's fault that she works for a big corporation that I think is a piece of shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have a role that requires her to be a piece of shit, you know, to mistreat people that are below you and
Yeah.
such. Like, so it's okay up until you get a role that requires you to mistreat people in one way or another, the way that I
Mm-hmm.
see it. Now, when you're a cop, you're a piece of shit from the day you start, like, because you're part of a fucked up system that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Same thing with a lawyer. I don't care whether it's criminal law, corporate law, it doesn't matter. You're part of a piece of shit society, you know, that doesn't help anybody
Mm-hmm.
do anything. Judges, same thing. But like I've just really been more focused on trying to just worry about my life and who would go to my funeral,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so to speak, really.
Yeah.
Like, because I've also said that, like, whenever people die, I don't give a fuck how much money you had, how financially successful you were. Nobody talks about that at the funeral. Nobody is gonna say, "Oh, Jeff Bezos built, you know, this business. Elon Musk built this business and this business and business and no." They're gonna talk about what type of leader they were, what type of person they were, what how they persevered, how they struggled with this and that, and they're gonna talk about real shit. They're not gonna discuss their fucking bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of that shit matters. And I'm just really trying to get closer to actually not just, you know, ideally, you know, feeling this way, but actually getting to a point to where all I care about is shit that actually matters.
Yeah.
Like, and that might make me a hippie, you know, in the end 5 years from now or something. And that is what it is. But I respect, you know, some hippies more than most CEOs. So it's one of those, like, there's something about somebody who's in touch with reality that's a little different to me.
Yeah. I mean,
Definitely more moving.
I think there's something to be said that like 90% of the people in the world, if they won like the lottery or whatever, they would immediately quit their job.
Hmm.
Like they get the scratch off ticket
Yeah.
and they confirm the final number. The next thing they do is pick up the phone and like, yeah, I quit.
Right. That's the
They
first
don't stay
thing that they
working
do.
there for a couple weeks or a month or they're like, no, fuck this. I'm dropping this place like a bad habit.
Yep. That's all it is.
And it's because, at least in this country, I mean, we don't literally have slave labor,
No.
but labor is so underrepresented these days in any
Yeah.
type of power negotiation between the company and the people that work there.
Right.
Like it's
Yeah.
insane. Like they're literally treated like
Slaves.
no, I was gonna say like disposable, like you have these little plastic pieces you put in the machine and it
Hmm.
only lasts for like 25 hours before it gets grind down and you gotta take it out and put a new one in. Like that's what people are. Like, oh, we
Right.
lost another one, Jim.
Right.
Get a fresh one out the box. Like
Right.
that's the way people should be treated, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
And hippies, I think a lot of them see that, and they've decided to not participate in certain ways.
And that's what I feel like I'm doing. Some sort of like, it may be like an awkward protest to most people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like Lydia isn't 100% behind me with some of my thoughts and judging people for what they do. Like
Yeah.
she's got friends, like I said, that are lawyers and cops and stuff like that. And I'm not willing to break bread with those people anymore. That's
Yeah.
just me. I mean, she don't have to like it. It doesn't fucking matter. That's something that's about me. But I'm definitely on the path to, trying to just be more of a person and be more realistic, than any of this bullshit that we live in today.
Yeah.
Like, cause it's just every day there's just hordes and hordes of just bullshit that don't mean a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
And we're so obsessed with it. And you get pulled into the shit a lot of the times. And you don't even necessarily know it, but you get pulled into that bullshit. And it's like, none of that shit matters. Like, nobody gives a fuck. Like, for real, for real. Like, it doesn't matter in life. And then trying to balance that out with, like, what are we really worth? Again, when you're looking at the moon and you're thinking about the wind and, like, how insignificant are we? We're no different than my willingness to kill a roach or an ant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're really no fucking different.
Yeah.
So the only thing that like binds us and that, brings peace to my heart is that we're all gonna die. Nobody escapes life
Mm-hmm.
alive.
Yeah.
We literally all die. It don't matter how much fucking money you have. We all fucking perish.
Yep.
And, that's the great equalizer for me.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
It's true.
But
Well, at the end of the day, that's the thing. You gotta decide what's important
yeah,
to you. You gotta blaze your own trail.
right.
And it's not easy.
Nah,
I mean, at the best of times, it's not easy. But then when you got
right,
all this bullshit trying to send you, not even just send you down the wrong, it's one thing if I'm really trying to help you out and I give you some bad advice.
right,
But it's another thing if I'm just trying to direct you down my road because it's got a fucking tollway on it, you know?
right. Yeah,
Like, oh, what you
yeah,
need to do is do this. And I'm going to make a shitload of money off of you in the process, but I'm not going to tell you that right now.
right,
And you won't realize it until 20 years down the road or whatever.
right,
Sucker.
right. Yeah, so I've been trying to figure out, you know, what matters a little more to me,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to keep those things in the forefront. And I'm wondering if it'll help with my depression at all.
Because the main thing with me, when I start feeling the depression, like I get angry really fast at how unfair things are and
Mm-hmm.
just all of this shit that's completely out of my control and I can't do a goddamn thing about. Like, but yet I know that like when I was diagnosed with this folliculitis, the Calvin shit on
Mm-hmm.
my head, like the doctor literally said to me after he told me what it was, I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
He literally said, like, you seem to accept that a little lightly, you know. And my response, I mean, what the fuck am I supposed to do about it? You
Mm-hmm.
just told me that there's no cure for it and that I have something. And clearly I have something on my fucking head, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like, and you're telling me that it's incurable. Why should I think about it anymore? Like it's there. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Fuck am I gonna do about it? But it's easy for me to, just overthink that shit. But let, like me at the job, we get handed somebody else's work to do, and my bosses are like, "Yeah, we can do it. We'll do that, sure." And now I got more work. I'm fucking livid. Why am I, helping these motherfuckers with their paychecks and this, that, and the other thing, and they're paying me bottom of the barrel, but they just keep putting more and more and more on us, and shit like that just infuriates me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and and I know there's not a goddamn thing I could do about it. I could stop working. I could quit. I could not go in. I could not wake up at 7:15 in the morning and take
Mm-hmm.
a shower and get on the bus and go over there. I could not do that, like easy. Like, but it's not realistic.
Yeah.
I got to do something,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I don't know. So I've just really been trying to justify and make things make sense in my head, because that's what I really need. I need it to make sense to me, like why I shouldn't care about cars, why I shouldn't care about money, why I shouldn't, because it's not part of my life like that,
Yeah.
and it's really not that important.
There's a there's a documentary series of documentaries I watched recently by this British dude. I don't know if I mentioned them before,
I don't think so.
but it's like they're interesting because they cover like they're all very similar, but they sort of cover everything from a couple slightly different angles. But it
Mm-hmm.
basically kind of talks about the late 19th and the earliest 20th century. So basically, like 1900s, 19 something,
Right.
up to mid 2000s or so, give or take, depending on the documentary. And it's just kind of like it talks about psychology and politics and the economy and how all of that stuff is related.
Okay.
And one of the things that just sort of blew my mind is that they were talking about like around in the 50s or the 60s, they were doing all this research on trying to figure out people's brains and stuff. There was a lot that happened in between the 30s and the 60s in terms of psychology.
Okay.
And so they're like, oh, we have all these big brain 200 IQ ideas about people and stuff. And so they were trying to understand how people are motivated and shit. And at some point, they reached this point in like the 50s where like just so many people were unhappy and just depressed and shit. And what ultimately happened is that they had spent so much time trying to figure out ways to get people to enjoy going to work every day and working 9 to 5 and all of the bullshit that we're talking about. They had spent all of this time, decades, and these are the top people in the field trying to figure out why people don't like it. And not once did they consider that maybe this is not something that's healthy for like a human brain.
Right.
Maybe we're trying to get people to enjoy some shit that people are never gonna fucking enjoy. Like
Right.
that never even crossed their fucking mind.
Wow.
And I was just like, these motherfuckers just they don't know what they're doing.
And
These
it's
people
shit
literally
like
don't
that.
know.
Like it's shit like that that like kills me on a daily basis because it's like, are you motherfuckers not human? You know, have you never held as a CEO or as a leader in any form or fashion? Have you ever held a job you didn't like?
No, they haven't. A lot of
Like,
these people never had a real job.
oh, well, I guess
Like
that
they,
takes
the,
away
like the
everything
only
I was
time they
saying.
had to wake up and go be somewhere was at school. But then as soon as
Okay,
they graduated from school,
that's
they
pretty
got
much what they did.
they got some job, overpaid job as a nobody at
Right,
some
because they got an
corporation.
MBA. Right,
Yeah, until they paid their due, they had to be there long enough so they could not make it look too suspicious when they got a promotion to some other job they didn't really fucking deserve.
right,
And then flash forward 20 years later when they become the president of the company that their father used to be the president of
right.
or whatever.
And
Or
that's
they're just
really,
academics who just spend their entire life writing research papers and shit.
and I feel like that's part of what, like, I've had to take a couple fucking classes in the last couple of weeks
Mm-hmm.
um, for this dumb shit. They got some program called Beats that is basically a productivity tracker.
Mm-hmm.
So these idiots think that, like, I work in a mailroom, right? So I could go from working on this folding machine to working on the mail stamping machine to working on the FedEx ground, machine that prints labels so we could ship it out. And, from the FedEx Express, it's right next to that,
Mm-hmm.
to processing mail, to helping somebody at a counter. And these monkeys decide that it's a good idea. And this goes with what you were talking about. Like these academic motherfuckers, coming into the real world and acting like some textbook shit is gonna work. So to them, it makes sense that, let's say I punch in the morning and I have some certified letters that I need to process, which is on this different computer, right? Where I got to type all the info in and all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before I start that process, I'm supposed to go to my laptop, which we all get laptops. And I'm supposed to go to my laptop, log into my laptop, which, takes seconds or whatever, right? Sometimes a minute. And then go to this website, log on to this Beats program, tell this Beats program what I'm doing and when I started it in real time. There is
Mm-hmm.
no going back later to do this. You have to do it in real time.
Yeah.
So, I'm working on certifieds. Okay. So I take 15 minutes and I do the certifieds. I go back to my computer, log in, log into this website again, and then tell the website that I've stopped this task and I've started this other task. You know, now I'm working on the folding machine. And now I'm doing something over there for 45 minutes. After that, I'm supposed to go back to my computer, tell it that I'm finished, and tell it what I'm about to start next. And none of these motherfuckers think that that's going to slow us down.
Yeah.
The shit sounds good on paper. And this goes back to what I would, what like you were basically saying, these motherfuckers that have never had jobs, they've never actually physically worked anywhere and been at the bottom of the barrel doing all the actual footwork. But it sounds good on paper. Oh, well, we'll be able to track, how many hours of work your people are doing and this, that, and the other thing. And it, it's going to be great. And we'll be able to, get rid of people if we have too many people and, blah, 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 blah. And it sounds great on fucking paper, but it doesn't work practically in real life at all.
Yeah.
And so I've been in and out of a bunch of those fucking classes. And, that shit's been fucking killing me lately. Like, in terms of just, boggling my brain down with shit that just doesn't make fucking sense.
Yeah.
Like, they do so much shit that just doesn't make sense. Like, the main part that I can't get over is we've been gifted with the extra job process of scanning people's mail to them in the legal department. Now, who did this before we did? Legal assistants, which you have to go to school and you have to take a little course to become a legal assistant.
Yeah.
It's not something you could just wake up and be 18 and go get a legal assistant job at.
Yeah.
I'm sure, unless you're somebody's nephew or niece or something.
Oh yeah, then it's different.
But you're supposed to work on that and get it. So that's what those people fucking did. Now we have to do it. Just out of nowhere, because we're in the building, now we have to do literally somebody else's job. Do they pay us more? Nope.
Do they pay the other people less?
Do they pay the other people less? Great. That's a great point you make there. Nope. They don't pay them less either. Because, you can't lower anybody's salary legally. You just can't do shit like that. But you could take half of their job away from them and put it on us. And there's like, I don't know, 30, maybe 20 different legal departments.
Which, think about it.
One fucking corporation. This one huge corporation.
And think about it. 6 months ago, you were grossly unqualified to do that.
Exactly.
Have you been smoking crack to suggest that these people do this job?
Thank you.
That is insane. But now all of a sudden, oh yeah, they could do it. It'll be fine.
And that's my whole thing that I've said the entire time whenever this fucking happened. I was like, so wait a minute. You want a bunch of high school dropouts or college dropouts handling $250,000 checks. This makes sense to you. For somebody who barely graduated high school to be handling, there was a $93,000 check that came in the other day, and I just did the math on it. I was like, how long would it take? I make $25,480 a year with the hours that I work, right? how long would it take for me to earn that amount of money? And whatever the math was came out to 9.33337 something years.
Yeah.
9 fucking a decade for me to earn the same amount of money at which you want me to handle?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you. That's retarded. You are paying, these fucking people like Lydia's friend who went to college, who graduated with their undergraduate degree, because that's what they have to call people with only a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
Undergraduates.
Yeah.
Right? Because that makes some sort of fucking sense to me, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then you go on to graduate school and you pass the bar exam, which I'm not taking anything away from anybody that passes that test. You got to have a decent amount of knowledge to pass that fucking test.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking away from that. What I am saying is that it's bullshit. But you have these people that go to this school and they don't want to practice actual law. So they just get a job in an accounting department that requires you to have a law degree, right? For whatever reason. And you're scanning and opening mail for whatever CEO or vice president or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And they're paying you $80,000 or $90,000 a year. And then somebody takes that job away from you and gives it to monkeys that are making 25 grand a year. And you're still getting your 80 or 90. And that makes sense to somebody. Some of these Ivy League educated fucking monkeys, that makes sense to them. And it's like, I thought I was the stupid one. But somehow that makes perfect sense. Because we can do the job. It's just, there'll be some mistakes here and there. But
it makes me think of the joke. Damn, how does the joke go? The joke is about being corporate America is like being a monkey on a ladder. Like when you look down, all you see is smiling faces, and when you look up, all you see are assholes.
oh, I love it. I've never heard that before. You look down, all you see is
but so
smiling.
you know what? So like here's the thing, and I know this firsthand from working at State Farm.
Yeah.
Like when I started working there, I made like 41,000, I think, or something like that, which was a lot for when I started. So I lucked out a little bit.
Yeah. You did good.
But even at that level, that's more than what you make doing what you do. They did the same shit to us. Like the motherfuckers that made $70,000 a year, they would, get their shit work and throw it down to us. But to a certain extent, they did that because the people who made $100,000 a year took their shit work and threw it down to them. Like it's amazing how this shit works, but it's like it's a ball. It's like a ball that just keeps picking up snow. Like the whole shit rolls downhill type thing.
And that exact thought of what you just described has run across my head, and this is who I'm supposed to look up to.
Yeah.
This is who is successful. You're successful in everybody's eyes for what? Why would anybody think that a piece of shit that doesn't work, they definitely don't work hard. So you're not hardworking. You don't try to pull anybody up that's beneath you. All of these different attributes. I'm sure I could go on and on and on, but that's what I'm supposed to look up to?
Selfish, self-centered.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is what is successful?
Yeah.
This is America? No, thank you. I'm good. I'm straight. For real. You could give me all the money in the world, and if I don't have the respect of my wife and children, then I have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just, but that's just my life.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if I was a successful entrepreneur, my wife and children wouldn't be as important to me. So
But see, that's
then it would
different
make
though.
sense, right?
Because when you're an entrepreneur, you work for yourself. So you don't have to put up with this bullshit. I mean, you can still be
That's
an
true.
asshole
Right.
to the
That's
people that
true.
work for you. But
That's
from an
true.
individual perspective, you don't. Because one of the things I realized, like when I worked at all these different corporate jobs,
Mhm.
like as I made, a little bit more and more money every year or whatever,
Mhm.
I never really got treated any better.
Right.
And the people that I saw around me, unless I was going to become an actual executive or a
Right.
manager
Yep.
to actively shit on people, like it was never going to change. I could make $150,000 a year and I would still get shit on by the people that were above me,
Yep.
And I mean, that's the whole problem. The problem is not, the fact, like the problem is that you're shitting on people. Maybe you shouldn't make shitting on people a part of the job,
Right.
and maybe everybody would be a little happier to be there.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know what? Maybe if you treated people like actual human beings, you'd get more productivity out of them instead of telling them to do this
Exactly.
stupid program
Right.
every 3 seconds, push a button like a
Right.
fucking pig in a fucking experiment.
Exactly.
But
That's exactly what I've been talking about lately. Like,
yeah,
is just like why, like me as a person, like I said, if I was Elon Musk and I had his money, nobody in my company would make less than 50 grand a year.
yeah,
I don't give a fuck if you're a janitor. Okay. And if you want to make that the lowest ranking job, well, then God damn it, that's a $50,000 a year job, is being a fucking janitor in the Tesla factory,
yeah.
washing the bathrooms and all of that bullshit that's
Mm-hmm.
involved. I would want, Rogan talks about this all the fucking time. Like, he doesn't understand, and this is something I'll give him credit for as a white dude. Like, is he's always talking about how, like, what sense does it make for people to be uneducated in this fucking country? Like,
Yeah,
why would you want to hold a group of people back that are citizens to your country?
yeah.
Why would you want them to earn less money, have worse education, live in ghettos and stuff like this? Why aren't you investing? Like, you can come up with, look, this is the fucking third time that these jackasses came up with $1 trillion. What is it, 1.9 this time, or
Mm-hmm.
1.4 or something $1 trillion to just give out. But yet you can't take, what would it take to fix Chicago? For
Mm-hmm.
real. What would it take? $3 billion? $4 billion? What would it take to stop some of the bullshit that's going on in these fucking ghetto ass communities? Like,
Yeah.
what would it fucking take to fix infrastructure? What would it
Mm-hmm.
fucking take? But no, you guys got trillions of fucking dollars to pump into some bullshit bill that has 50 different things that nobody's talking about in it. But yet, Mitch McConnell made sure that we weren't getting $15 an hour because that's sucking too big of a dick. We just can't suck that big of a dick in
Yeah.
in in, in this fucking country. That's oh wait, buddy, put some of that 14-incher away, would you? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, these fucking people. But yet, the shit that they focus on is just
Yeah.
beyond me.
It doesn't make sense. Like supposedly, if you listen to the same people say, "Oh, we're in competition with China, and we're in competition with whoever," and like it's some kind of team fucking sport. Okay, fine, it's a team sport. So why the fuck would you want to have half the people on your fucking team who don't get to go to the gym to fucking work out?
Right.
How the fuck you expect us to win if half the people on your team don't know what the fuck to do?
Exactly.
And again, like I was saying about that one dude, it goes back to this culture that a lot of white people have in this country, where they feel like if anyone who's not a Christian white person, a Protestant white person, doesn't get something, then they're losing. Like if anyone ever gets any kind of improvement to their life, somehow that makes their life worse.
Right.
And they have to fight against it because they feel like for some reason, if they don't get to eat all of the sandwiches in the fucking refrigerator, then they're gonna fucking starve to death.
Right.
You know? And it's just fucking crazy. Like that. And that's one of the problems. Like that mentality is baked into almost everything in this country.
Right.
The culture of our businesses, where they can never have enough.
Right.
Like it's psychotic. It makes no sense. Like you were just saying, my company, the Ford company, we're at war with those assholes at Chevy.
Right.
But at the same time, like I will leave my kid's birthday party to attend some meeting to make sure that we quote unquote beat Chevy.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I'm going to pay every single motherfucker in this company who's not an executive as little as I have to.
As little as possible.
If I could pay you less, I would, because fuck you.
Yep.
Because I don't value you
Exactly.
at all.
Or what you do.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. Like it's insane. It makes no fucking sense. And I mean, that's part of the reason why there's so many parts of our society that are kind of falling apart now.
Yeah.
Because it's just not sustainable. Like you can't sustain a society that doesn't give a fuck about itself.
Right.
Collectively, and that's what our society does. When you don't want to pay for healthcare for everyone, basically, and education for everyone, that is your society saying it doesn't give a fuck about itself.
Yep.
And it's never going to be able to fucking prosper.
Yep. And I just can't respect that anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I just didn't think about it for so many years, and maybe I hadn't figured out that's how it was,
Yeah.
at like that point. But now, at my age and, stature, like I just can't do it. Like, and I'm tired of trying, like the reason I don't like rap anymore. And that's difficult for me to say because I love rap music.
Mm-hmm.
I've always related to it. It's always been about, listening to somebody's struggle that I identified with. And yeah, we're both kind of in this together. And, even though he's from Detroit and I'm from Chicago, it's still the same shit,
Yeah.
But now, even these monkeys from Chicago that are blowing up for whatever reason, like I got diamonds, gold, jewelry. Oh, I got more bitches than you. Oh, like,
Yeah.
look, I'm not saying that Biggie had the best message, but he told stories, even about, what the fuck did he say? He was like, fucking kidnap him, fuck him in the ass, throw him over the bridge. He's talking about children. He's talking about raping children and throwing them over a bridge because he doesn't give a fuck, right? Like, it was something. It was like motherfucking kidnap kids, fuck them in the ass, throw them over the bridge, blah blah blah. Like
Yeah.
it was that was horrible. But at least he was telling a fucking story,
Yeah.
right? Now it's just I got money, I got money, I got money. You don't, na boo boo.
My bitches are bad and bougie. What are you talking about?
Right there we go.
The fuck does that even mean?
What? Who? What? You're fucking a bougie bitch. Nobody wants to be with a bougie bitch. Like, there's nobody that's like, man, that bitch is bougie. That shit got my dick hard. Damn. No, nobody fucking cares. Nobody likes bougie people.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, oh, I'm with a rude bitch.
He's so successful. He's reached the point that he just has to date women that he doesn't like just to be entertained.
Yeah. Just but you know, like I just, you know, like I said, I'm not trying to say that the rappers from back in the day had a better message, you know, but at least they told a story versus just this, you know, and I really want to call it like na boo boo rap.
Yeah.
Because it's I got money, everybody's taking pictures with big stacks of fucking dollar bills. Oh, can you hear me now? Yeah. Like, and none of that shit is like, I don't care because whenever something does happen to them, I really don't fucking care because all you do is brag and brag and brag. And where I'm from, bragging is not good.
Yeah.
Because that's how I was raised. You don't brag.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I made the statement, like I had said with the people in the Range Rover they got, you know, they're fucking, they were in a car wash, like, line. And people ran up to them and made them get out the car and they took their fucking truck.
Yeah.
Like, but that's what I meant by your, you know, flaunting your fucking wealth. Cause that's all that anybody ever fucking takes pictures with is Lamborghinis and Range Rovers and, you know, whatever other fancy fucking Rolls Royce race stupid shit like that. Like that's all these people fucking do is, oh, I got money, I got money, I got money. You don't, I got money. Now you get got by a bunch of niggas that ain't got money. Yeah, that's what fucking happens.
Yeah.
Welcome to the real world, bitches. You fucking kidding me? You riding around in a Range Rover and you think just shit's sweet? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, stop it. These fucking people, man.
And you know, part of it too is that, like, whether or not you like the stories that some of these rappers tell, at least it's a story and it's their story.
Right.
But when you just standing up there trying to find words that rhyme with Gucci and making sure that you put the word Balenciaga in your fucking song, like, what? That's not what is. None of that's about you. None of that's your story. There's nothing in this song that has any. None of this came from you. All of this came from like MTV and bullshit that's been pumped into your head and everybody else's heads, because I recognize it, because I have that same bullshit in my head. Everybody does. Right. So we know, at least the people that pay attention, we know that that's just bullshit and that's not even you. So tell me something about you, you know, because the stuff that you're saying, I could replace you with anybody because we all got that stupid consumerist bullshit in our heads.
Yeah.
So tell me something that's unique about you. You know,
and that's what I want to hear. I just like, I don't care how catchy the beat is. And that's what a lot of this new generation of kids care about is the beat being catchy. I don't care about a catchy beat. I care about what the fuck you're talking about. And
Yeah.
if you're, whatever, not to be homophobic, but if there were rappers talking about sucking dick all day and giving great stories, with sucking dick stories, they went to this club and sucked 7 dicks and went to this other club and sucked some more dick, and they sucked the biggest dick in the parking lot that they've ever seen in their life. It's
Uh-huh.
a great story, but you're talking about sucking dick. I don't care about sucking dick. Like,
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Similarly to, dudes bragging about having all these different bitches. Like, I don't have a bunch of different bitches. I don't want to deal with more than one woman at a time. That's just always been me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to deal with their personalities like that. There's too much going on there. But I've
Mm-hmm.
always been in deeper relationships, like
Yeah.
actual relationships.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't give a fuck about all that. So I don't care how much dick you suck or how many bitches you've been with. That doesn't impress me.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't used to need to be impressed by rappers outside of their lyrical ability to put words together. That's what was impressive,
Yeah.
not what you do or did. That wasn't the impressive part. Anybody could rob a nigga. Anybody could fuck a bitch. Anybody could make 100 grand. Anybody could do these fucking things. There's
Yeah.
nothing in particularly impressive about that shit. It was your ability to be able to rhyme words, like, and relate to people simultaneously.
Yeah. I think it's really similar to the whole reality TV thing. Like at some
Yeah.
point, people became okay with being entertained by mediocre people doing not very impressive things.
Yep.
And I
That's
mean, it
it.
makes sense if your boss is mediocre and all the successful people, because that's the thing. Like, it would be one thing if you went to work and the CEO of your company was like Elon Musk or some shit like that, right?
Right.
But when you go to work and the CEO of your company is just some fat dude with a fucking jelly stain on his shirt, like, look at this motherfucker, this sloppy asshole. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Like you look at this dude and you could tell, like, this dude is, he maybe has 3 points on me on a fucking IQ test,
Right.
if that,
Right.
like, the fuck, there's nothing special about this dude. There's
Right.
nothing special about my manager. There's nothing special about his manager,
Right.
but yet these people, treat me like shit and stuff, and they act like they're better than me. And, I think a lot of people just accept it as true and they become okay with just mediocre and just like
Yeah.
whatever. And so they're
I agree.
fine with watching people who are not that talented sing songs that are not that great
Right.
and shit like that.
Because, like, even when it goes to singing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That should be an obvious talent, right?
Yeah.
Like, entertaining people should be an obvious talent. But people are entertained by different things. And,
Yeah.
like, I'll never be able to explain why, you know, whatever. I'm trying to think of some lame rapper's name, like whatever, the dude that died a couple months ago, FBG Duck is fucking good. You know why
Yeah.
Pop Smoke was a good rapper. Like, it,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense to me. They weren't good rappers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I don't know how they made probably millions of dollars, definitely hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how Tekashi 6ix9ine you know, is this bum ass rapper and goes to jail for whatever 4 or 5 years, snitches, beats a case, and comes out and still has money somehow. Like, it's
Yeah.
got to be credit. It's something isn't making any sense there.
Yeah.
Like, and his new music isn't even doing well, from what I understand. So how you're still just in videos mocking a bunch of dead people and, you know, trying to piss people off, trolling, like, and you make millions of dollars off of this shit? Like, you basically don't even rap. Like I guarantee that if I spent time actually writing rhymes, I would be 120% better than what he is.
Yeah.
All I have to do is take 2 hours a day and actually think of some rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be 120% better than this jackass. Like, and I don't understand how these fucking people are making any fucking money. It doesn't make any sense to me.
You know, I think it's a bigger picture. It's for a long time, people who were not very smart and not very talented have been making shitloads of money. I mean, that's probably always been the case to a certain extent.
Probably.
But at least the normal thing to do previously was to try to make people think that you're smart.
Okay.
And, you know, smoke and mirrors, you know, talk a good game. But
Right.
over time, and again, I think this is one of the reasons why our society is starting to sort of fucking fall apart, is that the obviousness of all these the grifting and the bullshit, everything's a fucking scam.
Everything.
And like everything is a fucking scam. Like at
Everything.
least before, back in the day, you'd find one or two places where like, well, I don't know about thing A, but I know thing B is legit because so and so person is a phenomenon,
Okay.
you know.
Right.
But more and more, that's just become like, you know, like in the constant pursuit of just trying to make money as much as we can about,
Right.
you know, off of anything, with no regard for any type of value whatsoever, or any,
Right.
even the long-term ramifications of like just allowing bullshit into all these different, like what's going to happen, what happens to the music market when you just allow anybody to just make music?
Which is
The pool
exactly
starts to
what they're
go
doing.
down.
Right.
And so I think in so many ways in our society, that's what's happened. People don't even have to pretend to be talented or know what they're doing. They can just shit out some stuff. And if you luck up, that becomes viral for whatever reason, the right person sees your mediocre
Right.
bullshit and promotes it, then you've won. Everything's a fucking lottery now.
And I'll occasionally, like once every 3 months, I'll click on, like, you know, little dick suckers, you know, fucking video, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little cock boy or whatever the fucking stupid ass name is, right?
Yeah.
Just to be like, okay, let me, whatever. His name's Little Monkey Monk, right?
Little
Like,
monk.
Little Monk. And it is as bad as you could imagine. Like, the Saturday Night Live spoofs of rap videos
Uh-huh.
are so much, like, they're written so much better than what some of these, you know. And then I went to the park and I got in the car and blah blah blah. It's like you're not even fucking rapping for real.
Yeah.
You're just talking about anything. And it's horrible to where
It
it's
is.
literally a joke, but yet they're making money off of this shit. I mean, you could literally have fucking listened to it on in living color
Mm-hmm.
back in the day on Saturday Night Live regularly, where they come up with these goofy little raps,
Uh-huh.
and it's goofy, and
Yeah.
that's what this shit is. It's worse than that though,
Yeah.
and the motherfuckers still paying to listen to this shit. They
Like
still
Gucci
going to
Gang.
shows for this motherfucker. Like,
Yeah. No, it's true.
I
You heard
just, I just, I don't get it. I
you
don't
heard
get it.
Gucci
This
Gang,
is
right?
bad. This
Uh-huh.
is bad rap.
Yeah.
No good. No bueno. Give a
Mm-hmm.
fuck what language you speak. Shit
Yeah.
is trash.
You've
Ass
heard that
all day
that
long.
Gucci Gang song. Have you heard that one?
Gucci gang? No.
Uh-huh.
Who is this?
It's some white dude, but you want to know how that song goes?
Please. I'm dying at this
Gucci
point.
Gang, Gucci 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 Gang.
I see where he's going with this.
Like, dude, that's literally 90% of the song is him just saying Gucci Gang over and
That's
over.
I think it was Alicia Keys, but she sold out whenever she released that song. And I swear to God, the only lyrics were, "This girl is on
Oh yeah.
fire." And then she repeats that 72 times in the fucking song.
Yeah.
And that was the song. That
Yeah.
was it. This girl is on fire. That's all she fucking kept repeating. And that was the whole fucking song.
Yeah.
Millions. Millions.
Yep.
Fucking ridiculous to me, man. And I don't know. At the end of the day, because this is my life, I just can no longer respect certain things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and people who are perceived to be successful because of their titles or their positions. I'm done with that shit. I'm done with all cops, especially black cops. Like, I really don't think black people should even be police officers anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and again, they're the first ones with the "I'm just doing my job,"
Mm-hmm.
fucking routine that I'm done with. Like, shut up. You're not just doing a job. You're doing the devil's work, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, I'm just done with all of that shit. I'm done with all of this false respect. I'm done
Yeah.
with, viewing people as anything other than who they present themselves as. I'm really digging into that. How Martin Luther King wanted his kids and his kids' to be viewed by the content of their character and stuff like that. I'm kind of leaning into shit like that. Like, you want to be a cop? Okay, fine. You're my wife's friend and you're a cop, but you're not a complete shitbag. Then I'll give you a chance, maybe based on the content of your character.
Yeah.
Maybe you are just doing that because it was the only job you could get at the time. I don't know what your story is or how that fucking works in that field. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense for real, but whatever. I'll try to give you the benefit of the doubt at some point, but
Mm-hmm.
most likely no. And like, I'm just done with all of that shit. I'm done with looking up to people for monetary, gains, and looking up to people for being successful at this, that, or the other thing. Like, fuck all of that. Like,
Yeah.
who are you as a person? Where are you in this big scheme of life? Are you wise? Do you seem wise? Do you take care of, people beneath you? How you treat people who are of a lower status than you? That's what I'm looking at
Mm-hmm.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd argue that stuff's a little more important.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, we're at about 3 hours now.
Wow. That quick.
Yeah. You ready to call it, man?
Yeah, I reckon we can call it.
All right, man. It's a pleasure as always.
As always.
Thank you everybody for listening.
Yep.
You know, hit the like and subscribe and all that other bullshit that people give a fuck about.
I don't know if it means anything, but
Right.
go
I
ahead
don't
and
know
do
that
it.
it means anything at all, but
Yeah.
You know, hit that shit.
Yeah.
we'll see you next time, I guess.
Yeah, hey, you know what? If they decide it's important in their life to do it, then do
Right.
it. Don't let people
If it's
tell you
not,
what's important.
don't.
Yep.
You know.
Exactly. Cool. All
Fucking
right,
one
man.
thing that I fucking hate is when
Uh-huh.
you first turn on a fucking video and the first thing they do is try to get you to hit the like and subscribe and notifications. But it's like, hold the fuck up, man. Get at least 15 minutes into your fucking video.
Yeah.
You know, before you tell me, why would I hit like and subscribe before you've started talking?
Exactly.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. At the end of the video,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, hey, if you guys enjoyed the video, you know, like and subscribe to more content, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But to put that shit at the very beginning of a video is so fucking arrogant to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of goofy.
Yeah. Silly as fuck.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. You have a good one.